The meeting of the planning board for June 20th, 2019. We already said the pledge, so we're not going to do that again, but we are going to convene to the other room for executive session, and we will be back hopefully in 15 minutes or so to start the rest of the meeting. This is to discuss an ongoing litigation. What is this? Oh, this is what I'm supposed to read. Oh, okay. Okay, can you read, it's a motion, so I'm not supposed to do it.
She did.
Didn't I just do that?
Yeah, okay. Call the meeting to order.
She did.
All right, do you want to read the motion? Do you want me to read
Where is it? The executive session motion?
it? Right here. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Make a motion, we enter an executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy with respect to pending litigation. Herb Chambers, Cambridge Street LLC versus Planning Board for the Town of Burlington, land court case number 19, MISC 000268, where an opening meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the planning board, and the chair so declares, and to reconvene in regular session at the conclusion of the executive session.
Second.
Thank you.
Well, you have
And
to
then I'm
roll.
gonna,
I'll do it.
okay,
Chairman LaRue,
aye.
Vice Chairman Impemba,
Yes.
Member Clerk Espaillo,
Aye.
Member Cavino,
Yes.
Member Kelly,
Aye.
Member Gaffney,
Aye.
Member Raymond.
Aye.
Okay, we'll be back. Thank you for your patience. Convening in public session, thank you all for your patience. I know that took longer than expected, but we had 3 lawyers at the table, so I probably should have realized it wouldn't be done as quickly as I hoped.
I resemble that statement.
So,
Citizens time?
yes, let's go quickly to citizens' time. If there's anyone in the audience that has a matter that is not on our agenda, please come forward and have a seat. Please give us your name for the record and tell us what you want to talk about.
Hi, I'm Dave Miller from Gloria Circle, and I know you're all probably grimacing up there saying there's Mr. Miller coming to complain and
We're
whine
always happy to see you.
about his favorite project, but no, I'm here actually to talk about something more fun. If you're not aware, as of about 2 weeks ago, the Burlington Public Library was yarn bombed. And if you're not familiar with yarn bombing, the quick definition is it's colorful displays of knitted and crocheted yarn. And if you go to the library, both outside and inside, you'll see all kinds of very fun things. For example, on the outside, if you look at the 15-minute parking post, you'll see they're decorated with yarn. Take a look at the bike rack, you'll see something pretty neat there. Walk around the building, you'll see all kinds of displays. Inside the library, both on the first floor and the second floor, hanging from the light fixtures, on shelves, hanging from the walls, the ceiling, the windows. You'll see whimsical creatures, whimsical designs, all kinds of colorful displays all over the place. Even in the elevator, you'll find stuff. So it's just a very fun place to be right now. And in full disclosure, my wife co-facilitates the local yarn group called A Good Yarn that put together this display. They did all the knitting and crocheting. This is the second year in a row that they've done this. So it's a fun place to be, so I urge everybody to come out to the library and take a look and smile.
Thank you, Dave. My mom just joined A Good Yarn, and I've heard wonderful things about it. I plan to go and take a look. Thank you.
And they did need a special permit for that, apparently.
I hope not.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on a matter that is not on our agenda? Seeing no one, we will move on. We do not have, well, first is announcements.
Announcements. As you know, the trustees have engaged with a landscape architect for the Mary Cummings Park. They had their first meeting a few weeks ago. They're having a second meeting coming up for their landscape master plan for Mary Cummings Park on June 21st at 8:30 in the morning, which is tomorrow morning, at 8:30 at the school committee room at the high school. Second zoning bylaw review is meeting next week at 6 p.m. in the Town Hall Annex Basement Meeting Room, as announced during our earlier meeting. And lastly, the 4th of July, we will be closed enjoying the 4th of July.
And we will have a parade in Burlington. I'm not sure what time it starts, but also fireworks at 9 PM. All right.
Madam Chair, just
Yes.
one other thing, just like to offer my condolences, and I'm sure the board's on the passing of Tom Murphy, an attorney who was
His mother.
before us frequently, passing of his mother. Condolences to his family and himself, obviously.
And I think
Thank you, Randy.
I'd like
And
to
I'd
add
also-
to that Sherry Ellis, his father passed away in Hawaii last week.
That's too bad.
A good friend of town government and planning board.
Okay, thank you
Yeah.
both. All right, we do not have any legal notices or non-approvals, so we'll move on to item 9A on our agenda, a discussion, application for approval of a minor engineering change, 17 Terry Avenue. Boardwalk Storage Solutions LLC is the applicant. Welcome. If you could please give your name and what company you're with for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Bob Pouliot, with President of Boardwalk Storage Solutions. We're submitting the minor engineering change for the owners, Platinum Storage Group, who operates the self-storage facility at 17 Terry Avenue. We met with Mr. Morris on Tuesday to go over the minor engineering change that we're submitting tonight. It came to our attention that we needed to submit for the change because we were looking to apply for a temporary certificate of occupancy before all of the landscaping was completed on the property. We actually started the process of changing the facility or turning the facility over sometime in January, with paving being completed in December, late December. And about a month and a half ago, when we came to apply for the certificate, temporary certificate of occupancy, we were advised that had been some changes made because of coordination between the site plans and the architectural plans. That coordination had never happened. So when the project got built, apply for the TCO, it was brought to our attention that we had to bring those changes to your attention. We've actually applied for 2 prior changes. The first change was this drainage easement running through the property and connects to Terry Avenue. That drainage easement originally ran through the property under where the building was going to be constructed. And we came before the board to change it from a direct connection to a connection on the property, so we didn't have to go to the street. And that was granted by the board. The second minor engineering change was a result of comments by a staff person in town where we had a sump pump in the elevator that was going to discharge to an infiltration basin on the site. And the staff person felt that that wasn't appropriate for that particular discharge. So we came before you to connect directly to the sewer line with a oil-water separator. So the oil-water separator was installed, and we have that connection. We're before you tonight because of other changes that were made, or additions to the building, basically based on MEP design for the facility. The building or the project consists of a U-shaped building that's unheated, no water, just sprinklers. The 2-story building is a climate-controlled self-storage facility, and the heating systems require, it's heating and cooled, require furnaces inside the building, a fuel source, either natural gas or propane, and condensers on the outside of the building. Neither of those items were presented to the board on the original submission for site plan approval. So we have a number of other items that have changed slightly since the initial approval. And if I can point these out, if you have your plans, you can follow this along.
Yeah.
Good. So along basically the southwest portion of the property, directly on the entrance drive, we installed 2 condensers for the heating system and 1 condenser for the elevator machine room. which is required by code. And also the fire department connections on this side. When it came time to connect for natural gas to supply those units with fuel, the Lawrence issue happened and the Woburn issue happened. So there was a moratorium put on connections. In order to move forward, when we thought we were doing this 6 months ago, we went before the fire department to get permits to install propane tanks as at least a temporary means to keep the building, to get the TCO.
And I'm sorry, when did you do that?
It goes back to January, February, sometime in there, that
Thank you.
timeframe. And we were granted permission to do that in order to we also had to protect that equipment with bollards, bollard protection. We were given a criteria to install those. So we installed bollards in front of the equipment, in front of the tanks. And we installed a few additional bollards to prevent people from backing into the door or accessing or hitting somebody coming out of an egress door.
Now, at that time, this was considered to be a temporary change?
For the propane tanks, that was the discussion at the time.
Okay, and when did they become permanent?
They're still there. We haven't moved forward with them.
Are they going to be permanent?
Provided that the moratorium is lifted, it could be applied to connect directly to natural gas. When we connect to natural gas, there'll be a regulator in the place of the tanks, which will still require bollard protection.
Okay, so on the original plan, where was the regulator?
It would have been location, same location as the tank.
Was it on the plan?
Was
No.
not on the plan.
No, okay.
Again, there was no coordination between the architect and the site engineer over mechanical, electrical, and plumbing needs for the building. So in the original submission, the architectural plans involved basically the exterior elevations, sight lines from the street across and over the building. There was no discussion that I'm aware of over mechanical equipment and the impact of that equipment. In addition to the mechanical equipment, there were additional bollards that were added on the corners of the building, notorious for renters to strike the building if they don't have something to impede them going around the corner. So as a safety precaution for the building, we typically install bollards. So there were bollards on the corners. There's a keypad that services the gate, and there's a bollard installed in front of the keypad to protect the keypad.
I don't think you can see that in this picture.
No,
It's a-
I have another picture I could show, actually,
Thank you.
I think. Thank you.
In addition to that, the gate was a sliding gate. The architect was from Southern California, never heard of snow, I guess. And the gate was meant to be a rail gate into the pavement. And obviously that doesn't work in New England. For a snowstorm, ice storm, gates wouldn't operate. So we have a cantilever gate that requires a little bit more back overhang in order to allow it to travel, and the back flow of the gate would have hit the building. So the gate was moved in front of the building so that there'd be enough room for the gate to slide back and not strike the building. So the gate itself, the fencing, was moved roughly 3 feet, 4 feet towards the street, and was completely fenced off, fenced in with the decorative fence that you see out there now. I guess after speaking to Josh, he was asking on the walkthrough if there were any other things that could be considered minor engineering changes. And at the time, none struck me. As I was putting this plan together, I realized that we had downspouts that were not shown on the original plan. They were shown on the corners, two corners of the building, and 2 corners of the U-shaped building. So for a 300-plus linear foot of gutters, there were 2 4-inch downspouts, basically, which wouldn't have been adequate. The gutters would have overflown. We installed downspouts in accordance with basically what we see as the standards for the single-story self-storage buildings, every 40 feet apart, 40, 50 feet apart. So we end up with additional piping underground going to this infiltration chamber here. All of that was inspected by town personnel and approved for those connections.
And that's all on the inside of the building? That's not on the outside, street side?
That's all on the inside, on the U-shaped interior side of the building, and on both sides of the two-story building.
Can I just clarify what you said about the gate? So the gate doesn't slide in, it opens,
No,
It
it
slides,
slides,
it
it
slides.
slides back. Yeah,
slides into
In.
the fence next to
Kinda
it?
behind the fence.
Yeah.
behind-
Yeah, okay, all right, thanks.
Do you have this picture?
Yeah,
You can
Yeah, I
see it
just-
fairly clearly,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm all set.
Yeah, but
I think the picture that Josh is pulling up gives a
Little
little
bit.
bit better because you can
Yeah.
actually see the keypad and the
Kinda see
bollard that
there
goes
to
with
the
it.
left.
It's right on the edge
You
there.
see it?
There was another picture you had up that
Yeah.
showed it better than that.
That showed what, sorry, Joe?
Okay,
It
so
showed a little better.
that's
than that.
everything, yes? Are those all the changes?
To my knowledge, they are.
Okay, thank you. Staff?
I'll start and I'll let Josh jump in, because he's been down there multiple times. But in going through, this has been not a short start to finish. We started back in
12 or 2013?
2013,
2012-ish.
when we first permitted this project and had a couple different iterations. But we did go back, because there were some questions that were asked today when I met with the chair and vice chair in just preparation for tonight, and kind of looking at the building, and we were looking at the details of the architectural details of the building. If you look at the picture that we did pass out, they have acknowledged that they are missing two of the shutters on this window face here. But, and this is, actually, well, Josh is doing it. I have 3 sets of one of the last full site plans, and if you can pass them down and kind of share them. So one of the pieces that we just wanted to look back and say, okay, what is it that this whole thing, this project entailed, and then going through the exercise of going through the checklist to also figure out what else they need to complete. So I just wanted to highlight a few items that Josh has talked about with the applicant, but also some things that we kind of called out today as well. And one of them is the existing building. In the plan you're looking at, and it's a couple sheets in, but in the existing building, there is a requirement to add additional trim work around the windows. They're just kind of these, what do you call it, the kind of glass block window. It's not an attractive window, but to add, on sheet, sorry.
Yep.
It's kind of in the corner. We didn't want to confuse you too much, but it's hard not to. A4 dot cut off, but it's this sheet.
Got cut off?
That highlight that the existing building is required to have new 2x4 metal cornice trim at the top of the building, as well as trim around the existing windows. And that was the conversation that was trying to match the newer, kind of more colonial construction and colors to the existing building. And it was a challenge, and we had the conversation way back when of, just, we know they're not going to look completely compatible, but how do you kind of make them look a little bit better together? So that piece has not yet been done. I just wanted to highlight that, that it was a requirement originally. If we continue to go with what's in front of you, there was also a question that came up from board members over time as this is developed, not just in reaction to this particular minor engineering change, but I've highlighted a few of the garage doors, and then also went back to look at past conversations since 2012-13. Well, there's, in the northern face, going up like Cambridge Street toward Billerica, if you look through the gate, if you look through this picture that we just handed out, that there's those couple front garage doors you still see, and so there was just a question mark. And then the single one is the one way in, just that single one you can kind of see as you look in. So that was just a question that came up, that has come up over time, that I wanted to throw out there for discussion among this board.
What was
As
in the original
to-
plan for those?
The plan, the plan shows all of the same garage doors, but the conversation and the narrative is any of the garage doors that are
Visible.
very visible should be considered for different treatment. So it was difficult to figure out, and as they said, they've moved the gate around a little bit, so a little bit more was, or potentially is more visible now. So that's a new conversation that I just wanted to bring up to this group. The other, where am I? The other pieces. So the bollards and the utilities are new to this plan. For any project in the town center, if they had all these utilities and bollards and the view shed, I mean, that's what we're talking about, the view shed. You can do whatever you want if you can't see it. So for any project, I think you would look at it and say, okay, you need to look at enclosing them, making sure if they're on the roof, they're enclosed. So here, if they're gonna stay where they are, we recommend that you try to figure out some sort of fencing, whether we've done a lot of bollards inside the fence posts to kind of minimize the spacing needs. We want to make sure we keep the travel way wide enough so we don't have a fence impacting people backing up from those spaces. But some sort of fencing around those utilities. Liz today was trying to figure out these are the markups you see. The yellow is a shadow you wouldn't see that if the fence was actually there. And somewhere between a 6 and 8 foot fence. The air conditioning units are a little over 6 feet, so it's a 6 foot fence we'd see kind of peeking on the top. But anyway, somewhere in that realm, we'd recommend trying to figure out concealment of utilities. And if they need a gate because they need to get to the propane or something, but just in general, concealing the utilities. What else? Keypads, the brick. There is the condition in the original decision and here that there be the decorative brick banding along the back of the sidewalk, and that's yet to go in. And Josh, you can highlight some of the discussions you've had with the applicant on the brick banding. And then the other piece is the keypads are new. The keypads are a part of self-storage. I don't have an issue with the keypads. Do they really need a giant yellow bollard in front of them? But also, the building inspector and the fire and police departments also want to make sure that within the keypads and any locking systems that they had ability to override in case there was a public safety issue that they needed to get, or a fire issue that they needed to get in. So that you'll see some of those conditions in this permit. Let's see.
One more thing, Kristen?
Yeah.
Does the original decision, when it comes to the materials on the outside of the building, does it specify that the clapboards go only halfway down the building?
There is in, let me look at this quickly.
Sure,
And then
and
Josh can
Josh
add
can
some
talk while you
few
look.
things,
Sure.
and
Okay.
I will tell you, but it does only go partially down, I believe, but Josh.
Sure. Yeah, no, I've been meeting with the applicant. We've met several times this week. We're just trying to,
Josh, can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, sorry.
Just can't-
Yeah, we met with the applicant a couple times this week. We're just trying to, go through, close, do these like final items. We talked about, and the applicant agreed to putting the fence to shield or screen the utilities, so I think that's very positive. We talked about potentially different colors and different sizes, but it seems like that would be very, beneficial. And then the other question that's come up is just the brick banding and the type of paver, or, brick paver to be used as the branding behind the sidewalk. And we've just been going.
Paver or a brick?
We are of the opinion that it's supposed to be a brick.
Okay.
So that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to the board, but first I have one very basic question about all of these utilities. Why are they here? Why are they placed here in the most visible part of the site instead of in the back where no one could see them?
The access drives around the building get narrower at the rear of the building, and the...
Very, very wide on the sides.
It requires, for turning radius purposes for the fire department and everybody else, it requires space. So the largest space and the mechanical room for the sprinklers were located in the front of the building. The sprinkler room is located here, and all the utilities are coming in from this side.
Okay, okay. So in the interior of the building is dictating where these items go on the outside?
Yes, pretty much
Okay.
so. I mean, the condensers could be placed elsewhere, but they'd be in the drive. At the rear of the building, this gets very narrow for fire department turns. If we put any utilities there, we have to put bollards to protect them, that would shrink the drive even further. The location that was selected was there.
Right, so it was there are other locations where it could go where it wasn't hidden, but that's just where you selected to put it.
Right.
Okay, I understand. I'm going to turn this over to our board members for questions.
Could I distribute this information?
What is that?
This is based on conversation with Josh having to do with the fencing. We had discussions with the fire department over the access to their sprinkler connections. And they would prefer that there be a gap in the fence rather than a gate.
Sure. Oh.
And we do typically accede to their requests. So we've developed a plan that would hide the bollards but still maintain access to their units. So if you're looking...
That's what this is?
Yes, yeah. And there's some additional pictures there for fencing types that we had discussions. Josh asked that I bring some of those pictures to have a visual presentation of the things that could be considered. Color of the fence was one of them. We would prefer white over black.
Well, is there any way to get, to paint the fence the same color as the clapboard?
We probably could match it or paint it. I'm not sure about the vinyl, but I'm
Yeah.
fairly certain that we
Probably
could.
get pretty close.
I think they have vinyl that comes in those shades as well, but and then, you know, if not, you could actually, I think you can paint vinyl. There's paint that you can put on it that would match that.
If you guys agree to a type, we can leave the condition to the chair or a designee of the board to work with me to decide color.
All right,
If, just saying, if
do you want to start or do you want me to start at one end?
Do you want me to read the, there's only one comment.
Yeah, let's do the
here.
comments first, and then you can start with your questions.
So this, basically the, selectmen, no comment, DPW engineering, no comment, police, no comment, fire favorable, board of health, no comment, conservation, no comment, inspector of buildings. So inspector of buildings,
Joe, I think-
our office,
Oh, sorry, the ones that are highlighted are probably the most like important or
Okay.
relevant.
so just,
try to make it easy for
Yeah,
so just do the highlights.
yeah, just do the highlight, it's fine.
All right, so basically, the offices received the minor engineering change and note the project offered the following. 1, concrete pad be placed under both propane tanks and HVAC equipment as shown on site plan. 2, permits are applied for and approved by the Burlington Fire Department for the propane tank storage. 3 is not highlighted. 4, operation of the gate should be reviewed by Burlington Fire Department, i.e. motorized or manual lock operation. Should emergency access be required, how is access made?
Good.
So, very good. So what was the, I'm not sure, looking at these, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go
No,
ahead.
because actually, it's in relation to the access, so you were saying that there was a way to do access without a gate.
No, this is what they proposed, which is a gap right in the middle. Right here, basically.
Right.
we put a small return
Sure.
on the fence back to the building, so it, from the gate side, you're still looking at.
Yep, so return, and that would,
Block the HVAC equipment.
Yeah.
okay. I guess if it works.
It's hard to tell what it will look
Yeah, I
like.
mean, yeah, it's hard to tell if it works. So they, when they actually said, I mean, they didn't say you can't use a gate, from what I'm seeing, right? They said that,
They prefer that we do.
You met with them, is that right?
Yes, yeah. We met with the chief.
so the fire
to
department,
head.
so the fire department on here says favorable, and it doesn't have any comments.
We can reach out to the fire
Well,
department.
it's wide open. They
Oh,
love it.
they were looking at it with no fence.
Correct.
Oh.
Yes.
There was no
Yeah.
fence.
Got it.
Bob, when did you speak with the fire department about this issue? Yesterday?
Wednesday, I believe.
Okay, so that's why. They didn't comment on, you know.
Do you want to start us off, or do you want me to start down the end?
It's up to you.
Please, go ahead.
Okay, so if, you know, again, the fencing, if we could see that, and I, you know, the preference would either be, you know, I'm thinking that if you could match the color of the up above, I'd probably be more amenable to that, just it would be less of a, it would less, you know, wouldn't draw your attention to it either way. Might be, and that's only, again, my opinion. I think, you know, the board, everybody's got their opinions. The other one was with the bollard on the outside. So I had gotten calls, actually, from neighbors down there, you know, just to lay a little background on it. And they had all been talking about these unsightly bollards and all these mechanicals out here, and they called and said, was that the planning board that mandated that they do that stuff? Yeah, and I said, no, actually, I don't think we even knew about that. So that's how it kind of came to light, and then we went down and saw that. The other thing was and Kristen had touched on a little bit, there was a lot of discussion. This whole area was in, and I mean, you were in some of the meetings, but I think the whole area was in discussion. This isn't something that's coming out of, you know, out of nowhere, or left field. This whole area was in full discussion through this whole process about, you know, whatever you could see from the street, we wanted to make sure was not, you know, was something that was, so even however many of the garage doors came into view, we asked that those doors be done in a different fashion, like a colonial look to them or something,
A
other than
residential
other than a commercial look, and they assured us that that would be the case, and now I'm looking at commercial on there as well.
Or our notes say that you wouldn't be able to see them.
Well, but if you could see them, that they would be.
Yeah, so that's kind of the
a
difference where we sit.
non-commercial look.
And that's
Right.
why
And then
the questions come
my
up.
own,
Door, too.
my other comment, and the door as well, right? And my other comment would be, so if the fence is, you know, successfully does what we need it to do, you know, then I know you know, obviously you have to have these things there, and I think that, you know, I think I'd be willing to work with them on that and see what we could do with that. The only one that I have a problem with, if that successfully happened on the inside, is the yellow bollard on the outside, where the card key, you know, mechanism is, the keypad mechanism. So what I was wondering on that location, if you could go with like instead of a yellow bollard, you could go with a granite post, like a granite bollard, like a chiseled granite or something that would not stand out and would look.
What they use for mailboxes.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. That would look nice.
So those would be my comments on those. Other than that, you know, you guys did a great job on the buildings. I think it really looks nice, and the only other, so I assume there's a grass area that's not in, a lot of landscaping isn't done yet either, is that right?
It has started.
Yeah.
Actually, we were going to start with the masonry, the border on Wednesday, and we were told to pull back until we had more discussion about the brick. And I just brought another sample, a different sample for consideration of that. If we get the go-ahead on that, we could actually start installing tomorrow and finish the border, basically, get it completed.
Is
All the plantings
this,
are on site. That's
does-
clay.
oh, it looks like brick. It looks much better than the paver looked like a paver. I mean,
So what is the
concrete.
reason for
This
not
looks like
wanting brick?
Pardon?
What is the reason for not wanting brick?
Durability, cost, all of those things, I guess it was, those particular pavers that we submitted are used on some high-end homes and driveways and the like. It's not a cheap product, and the color was closer, I'm color deficient, so I don't pick colors. But I'm told that color was closer to the modeled brick that's on the existing facility.
Those are beautiful.
The narrow end up?
No, it's
This end,
flat top.
Flat.
So it's more uniformity with the downtown that we're looking for, and that's why like even the Builder 19 site came before us, they asked what kind of banding and what type of, so we
I
actually
said
said,
Bob that, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's more just, we're looking for uniformity, that's why, even the lighting, the lantern, streetscape and everything that we asked for is kind of uniform, so we didn't want to vary from that. Yeah, no, so.
It's heavy. Jeez, very heavy. Okay.
He wants the brick back.
Keep it.
And
There's
Paul,
going to
when,
be one missing otherwise.
Yeah, right.
I can bring,
Oh, are you
sure,
done?
I can get it. It's fine.
Yes, I'm all set.
Paul, do you have any questions?
No, but I just wanted to say that kudos to Joe for insisting on the fencing along Terry Avenue. I had a woman ask me, she says, what is that in there? I said, it's a storage facility. She said, that's a storage facility with that nice fence and everything?
Right.
I said, yes. I said, Joe is my go-to for aesthetics, so thanks to him for that. No, I
And
think-
and you guys were very good when we asked for that, and I have to, you were very cooperative with all of that.
I'll pass those sentiments on to the owner.
Okay, thank
Well, you told us there was money in the business, so I'm glad we got you to spend a little for that.
Thank you, Paul. Jack?
Since the California architect didn't figure the gate, where are you storing the snow when you plow it?
There's no storage, I believe, down in this area, but
Okay.
if it gets too much snow,
Yeah.
they're gonna have to try.
But for the small amounts, you have it on
You're
site,
plowing
okay.
it forward and then into this area, so pretty much.
Are there any backup propane tanks, or you just have those two?
Just those two.
And at the beginning, I don't know if I misheard you, you said there was an oil water separator going to the sewer system, or is it going to the storm drain system?
The sewer line.
It's going into the sewer line, okay.
And that was a requirement, I believe, the Conservation Department. And it was inspected we found out it was a connection to the MWRA. We weren't aware of that. And they came out and inspected it. Took us-
And that's because of hydraulic fluid spills or something?
If there's any, if there's hydraulic fluid that's spilled and it gets pumped into the tank, then it'll separate out from the water. But the pump itself also has a shut off if it detects oil.
Okay. All right, that's it, thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
My question was addressed, Madam Chair, as long as it's fenced appropriately. No further questions.
Thank you. Bill?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just when Member Pemba mentioned bollards, I just went onto the web and checked out decorative bollards. And I just pulled one up here, and it may align more with maybe the lighting in the town center at the traffic lights as well. So maybe something more of a decorative bollard, if I can let staff look at that.
Are you suggesting that instead of a fence?
Instead of the granite.
Oh, instead of the granite? Okay, thank you.
And then we can play chess.
Exactly, right?
It does.
At the White House?
Yeah. So, and that looks like in kind of more of in line what we want to do. The only other questions I had here on the decision is this items 6 and 7 with regard to the existing sign, the existing building line. Can you expand on that for the staff, please?
It was a question mark that came up during our earlier meeting today, and just because when question marks come up, I like to put question marks in there, and I was hoping it would be, if you wanted to continue talking about it, that you would.
I was going to bring it up when it was my turn. but
Okay,
so
I'll let-
that-
I'll-
No, go
no,
ahead.
That's why it's there, so that it's not a fully
So I see the
through.
existing lighting conditions that are typical on there, so that's,
No, they should be.
yeah, they're in
Yeah.
section
They're in there.
21.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so it would be that the existing light would be
It's the,
grandfathered, or?
my question was the existing sign that's on the
Oh,
older building.
Yeah.
self-storage.
you did do a beautiful job. This is a lovely building. It doesn't look like self-storage. But that sign
Yeah.
drags down your whole property. It's really very unattractive, and it doesn't fit in with everything that you've done. I would like to request that you take it down. I don't think that it is attractive for your business at all.
So put more what the town center signs are going forward, doing,
Yeah.
natural
Yes.
gooseneck
Right,
lighting,
it really doesn't fit with what you've done.
externally
I
lit.
think you know that yourself.
Well, we weren't contracted to touch any of the existing, except,
Okay.
like Kristen pointed out, there's a couple of moldings or something that was part of the original set. But as far as signage, the existing entrance, we weren't contracted. I'll pass those
Okay.
sentiments on to the owner.
Okay,
There was a sign that was permitted or on the site plan
Sure.
at the corner of
Yeah, Terry.
of the property. That also wasn't part of our scope. Typically, a sign company that comes in and does that. They haven't mentioned moving forward with that, but I'll mention to them that you would like to see some changes.
okay, thank you.
And as part of it, if they will do that, then as part of the sign permit, they would have to submit.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Bill.
No, thank you, Madam Chair, that's all I had.
Ernie?
Just, are you proposing a fence around to shield the bollards where the equipment is, the propane tanks and the air conditioning units? Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yes,
And it looks like is it our suggestion the fence be solid, or is it their suggestion?
It's our su-
probably both.
Well, our suggestion is to fully conceal the equipment,
Yep.
so that would usually,
The reason for my question is, that are you going to have on-the-ground air conditioning units, 2 of them, that kind of thing?
They're
And
already there.
they're there.
they're
Yeah,
already,
picture.
but I don't see them in the picture, right?
Yeah, yeah.
They're there.
I think they're there.
Even the
They're
picture
there,
that
okay.
he sent around.
I don't know if you can actually put, that's it?
Yeah.
That's all you're having for air conditioning units, okay. Maybe then it wouldn't matter, because usually you can't put a solid fence around the air conditioner. Okay.
And the reason the one unit is up on the wall is we had to have a particular distance between the tanks and the equipment.
Yeah, run into that problem before, okay. I'm good.
Okay,
Whatever you
thank you. My turn. I have a number of smaller items that I want to ask you about, but just before we get into that, for your benefit, but also for the benefit of everyone else who's watching, you do understand that when you do something like this that's not on the plan, you're supposed to come and ask permission before you install it, not install it and then ask permission.
I'm finding that out, yes.
So that's a problem. And I think that actually the fact that you all have done such a beautiful job on the building, and it does look very nice, it's put us all in a more amenable mood. But that's not the right way to do things. And for everyone else who's watching, don't do that. You have to come and ask before you install it and then get permission. So that having been said, there are some things that I'm going to be looking for, and some of these things have already been mentioned. Of course, we want the fence put in to completely conceal everything there. It's hard for me to tell from the diagram that you gave us how that opening will work. So I think we're going to have to put something in the
Once you get-
decision that we'll approve it. You'll have to give us a better rendering of what it will actually look like so that we know before it's final approval.
Even the color, if it's determined.
And the color,
the
too.
rendering with
Yes.
that color on it.
Right.
Yeah.
To that end, you have the air conditioning unit up on the wall, and then there's going to be the fence there, and you have the clapboards, and then this other material that's sort of vertical below it. And I don't think that's going to look good if you have the fence, and then you have just a little strip of that vertical, and then you have the clapboards. I'd like to see the clapboards brought down on that side so that they are not, so that the other material is not visible above the fence. And it probably is only a foot or so that you would have to bring the clapboards down, just so that they come down below the top of the fence. I'm not sure if I'm expressing myself clearly, but,
I understand.
okay, all right. As mentioned, we would want the visible garage doors, and from what I can tell, there's 2 of them in the in that same building that has the bollards in front of it, and one in the back building that are visible from the street.
You know,
And we,
as you're driving, you can
yes,
actually see more
we
than
can
two
see
of
more
them.
than, so we'll have to see,
You have
some
to
of
see
those
what
have to be
division, right.
replaced with more residential-style doors as were originally discussed, as well as the door, just the access door. I'd like to see you do something with that so that it doesn't look like an industrial back door. Because that is, we, as you recall, we talked a lot about the look of this building. It was a painstaking process, and you've done a good job, but these last few items are dragging you down. And if we can address those, it's really going to make the whole property look better.
Yeah, and I would say, Madam Chair, that I got into this process after the site plan approvals and that discussion took place. I came in, was brought in, and we, I guess there were differences between the two approvals, and there was paperwork to iron out, and it took about a year to do that before we went into construction. So I wasn't involved in any of the earlier hearings having to do with
Oh, that's okay. We can, well, that'll all be in the decision, right?
residential
Okay.
buildings.
Question. It's not visible in these pictures, but in other pictures that we looked at earlier today, the hot top in the front before the gate is all patchy. Is it your plan to seal coat that or something so that it's more uniform? It doesn't, it looks bad.
Basically, we were patching the cuts in the existing asphalt because the asphalt is that much older. It shows up worse and it
Right.
hasn't aged. The owner had expressed interest in doing a change order to pave over the entire site, but we were at the end of December and the plants were about to close and there was no time to do that. I don't know what his current plans are, but it really was meant to be patched from,
Right.
contractually from our end.
Even if it was just a seal coat layer on the top so that it's more uniform in color, I think that would make a big difference.
If he's not inclined to pave.
If he wants to pave the whole thing, we're not
Yeah,
arguing with that.
This
But if you-
particular junction, he's probably more inclined to seal coat.
So
Well-
we have a condition in the front of the site, so as you come in on both sides, and anything in the front that just has all that, the patchiness
Okay,
kind of
yes.
look to it. I don't think we have as much of a concern in the back of the site or
Right.
anywhere, but
Just
just
the
really
part
in the
that's
front
visible from
entrances
the
of the
street.
site.
As far as you can visually see.
Right.
Right.
You know, if they want,
Right.
the stuff behind the buildings, I don't know.
Okay.
And then the other two things that we've already, the other three things we've already discussed, the decorative molding on the original building, or the existing building, the bollard being replaced with something more attractive, and we would really, I know it's not up to you right now, but we need to have a conversation about that storage unlimited sign that's very, very unattractive. So as long as we can get that fence in and get a look at, see what it's going to look like ahead of time. And I think, I happen to like Joe's idea of matching it color-wise to the clapboard that you already have on the building, because then it will blend a lot more and you won't notice it so much. I think that would satisfy me.
What is the consensus on the brick? Or
I think we need brick.
Clay, brick
That's,
paver?
that doesn't
Brick?
look like brick, and we want it to look, and there may be neighbors that end up putting brick banding in, then it will connect up, and to me, that doesn't look like brick. It should be brick.
Well, and that's how we originally approved, was a
Right.
decorative brick band.
Yes. Pardon me?
What's there now?
Nothing.
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 Yes.
That doesn't look like brick, is that just?
No.
Block.
If you put
One
that
was
next to a
passed
brick,
around.
Right here.
One that was passed around.
yes, if you put that next to a brick, it doesn't
Doesn't
look
look
the
like brick.
same.
It is a brick, but, okay.
No, it's not.
It is,
That?
yes,
He said it's not a brick.
okay.
She's the chair. It's a
Well,
brick.
Right, I apologize.
That is a brick supplied for, clay brick supplied in substitution of the original concrete brick that we submitted.
Yeah, they had a concrete brick,
but that was not what we originally
but the
specified.
concrete, right, this is of a
Much closer.
clay-type material.
Right.
Okay.
Red or brick, maybe.
I think what she's
Just
saying
be
is
a
that we
brick.
want to have it, you look at the other sites that have been done and just mimic them.
Well, they have a lot
Have
of
it
the
uniform through the
brick
center.
on their,
On the posts that are holding the
posts
gates.
that
you know,
are
if
redder
that's
in
the-
color.
that's
So if
the-
you can find a brick that matches more evenly
Should be
with.
uniform with the other brick banding that we have in the town center,
Right,
because
that's
the
the purpose.
goal is for all of these brick banded sidewalks to eventually meet, so that people can walk around. And if you have different styles of brick, and they keep changing from one property to the next, it doesn't have that uniform look.
And what we will do when that, because the next project that we've approved next to you, directly next to you, we've asked them to do banding as well. We'll
Right.
have them, we're gonna have them match your brick so that
Right.
I
it
would
it
ask
just comes
that
right into
I get a
you.
written specification for that brick because we
Sure.
haven't had that.
Sure.
The plan saying decorative brick, there's hundreds
Yep.
of bricks out there.
That's fair.
We need a definition. We
Okay,
can buy them.
we'd be happy to specify a brick,
I'm sure.
okay? All right,
Was there any, is there any exterior lighting? I don't know, I didn't hear from Bill.
Yes.
did we address lighting?
Yeah, there's pedestrian scale lighting along
Yeah,
Terry.
those
It
all
is
been
already
installed.
installed? Okay, okay. Is this a public meeting?
What's that? Am I mentioning? No, it's not public.
Okay,
That's
all right,
part of that hardscape of the,
okay. I would love to have a motion, thank you.
Minor engineering change, so public hearing, right? I'd like to make a motion to approve the request of a minor engineering change for the property located at 17 Terry Avenue to install 2 propane tanks, HVAC condensers, bollards, and to modify the location of the gate/fence system as reflected in a plan entitled Utility Site As-Built, 17 Terry Avenue, Burlington, Mass., prepared by Brennan Consulting, dated June 13th, 2019, consisting of 1 sheet, subject to the following revisions, terms, and conditions as amended and printed.
Yep.
Thank
Is that where
you.
we want to be?
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
Staff, that you're going to have in there that the fencing needs to be approved by you.
It'll be like
and-
chair and,
By the two of you.
Okay.
Yeah,
And me.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds
Three
good.
of us.
the brick, the whole,
Yeah.
you know, everything
All of that,
installed.
Yep.
okay. So
We'll work
it's been
together.
moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on. It's a very long decision. Okay. Next on our agenda is item 7A, a public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.6.9, fast order food establishments of the zoning bylaws, 286 Cambridge Street. The Bagel Bar LLC is the applicant. Hello and welcome. If you could please state your names for the record.
Sure. My name is Michael Talopoulos, representing S&E Realty LLC, the property owner, as well as co-owner of the Bagel Bar LLC, and proud Burlington resident. My cousin is with me here, Laura.
I'm Laura Tlopoulos, and I'm the other co-owner.
Can you pull that microphone real close? They don't work very well
better?
unless you're very
Good?
close.
Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
Laura.
Thank
The other
you.
co-owner,
And,
cousins.
and you are you're representing the property
So,
owner?
yeah,
Are you
so-
the business
so-
owner?
We have, we own the property as well as the proposed business that's going to
Okay.
be going to that space. It's the plaza where Old Town Liquors is. So we own the property, Old Town Liquors, as well as this here, so.
And the two of you will be running the bagel bar?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead.
Just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, I've been in touch with the planning department since since we started working on this. We're just looking to put in it's a small space, as you know. It's fresh baked off-site bagels, some fresh coffee. We got a local roaster we're working with to do a lot, get into the cold brew, kind of the trends that are going on right now. What it is it's a great fit for this end of town. Everything that's coming in is on Middlesex Turnpike. I myself live on this end of town, and everybody always says there's something. We need more down there. We need more, independence, family-owned places. So this kind of gave us a perfect opportunity. I mean, we've had the space vacant for over a year now. Any of the inquiries for rental, it just wasn't anything that was, it didn't really do anything for us. It wouldn't have really benefited the town. I think this is a good concept. We've got experience in the restaurant business as well as the retail. The reason we're steering it towards the bagel concept, bagel coffee concept, is mainly because of, from an operational standpoint. Okay, so we know it can be a busy lot. That lot gets busy between 4 and 8. I mean, the store's a busy store, convenience store stays busy. It's, we're there all week long. So I know people think it's busy. It's not as busy as everybody tries to make it out to be, as you'll hear. But the bagel shop will be, we're working off of off-peak hours, right? So it's, again, it goes back to, from our standpoint, it wouldn't work any other way, right? So, this benefits the plaza as well as an opportunity for us to do some business in there during those hours. It's kind of pretty cut and dry, small space, no major build-out. Any equipment isn't going to require any venting, so keep the neighbors happy in terms of ventilation and things of that nature. As I mentioned, the bagels will be brought in fresh daily. So, any other concerns or questions, department comments, I've addressed with each department. I've spoken with Andy over the building department, and you guys probably have it in front of you. He had some suggestions more than anything. Without having seen the parking lot, I did explain to him that back in the fall, we just redid the entire parking lot. I mean, we've spent a good chunk of change in that building in the past year. We spent over $100,000 in renovations between parking lot, cleaning up the outside, freshening up awnings, continuously staying on top of the landscaping. So
on that note, just.
Yeah, no.
So when you did that, because there is a comment about handicap parking, that's all taken care of?
So that was all taken care of in the fall. We've got
All right, great.
the appropriate handicap spaces. It's all newly paved and striped. And along those lines, too, Andy would like to, he wanted to see an existing conditions plan because the town didn't have one on file. So our architect is putting that together for him. I'll have that in the next week or two. He's well aware of that. He made a comment about entrance and exit, trying to make the entrance off of Boston Road, the exit off of Pontos. In discussing it with him, he reiterated it is just a suggestion. My concern to him was backing up traffic on Pontos, just as is, with or without this space coming in, So he was in agreement. I think he was just trying to knock around some ideas and come up with a game plan. But again, based on what it is we're trying to accomplish, small space, people in and out, we don't see it as an issue within the parking lot. Beyond that, the engineering division of Public Works, I spoke with Anthony over there, and everything that he came up with, he's understanding that we'll satisfy the requirements prior to any certificate of occupancy being.
I like this guy. I have to read the comments.
Cover the bases,
That's good. We need more like you.
The last was the Board of Health. Obviously, that's our main player here. I've met with them a few times to discuss general food safety concerns, menu, grease trap compliance. We're scheduled for a variance of external grease trap for Tuesday. Where the waste will not, there's not fats,
Because you're not
oils, greases
baking?
going out. There's no baking in-house. Everything's, and again, speaking with Marlene, she's on the same page. So we don't foresee any issues with that. Fire department had no concerns as is. So, again, I mean, we're here to hopefully get the special permit issued tonight. I can have that for Tuesday's meeting with the Board of Health, and we can get these doors open and start serving some coffee and bagels.
Okay, thank you. Staff?
We don't have a lot of concerns. It's really, there's not a lot of tenant fit up. A lot of the typical concerns you have about cooking is not really part of this when you're just making coffee and toasting. We did do an analysis of parking on site. It's like right there, and they do own some of the adjacent sites, so we would recommend that for employees during any type of busy time that they can try to park off-site. It is fortunate that, the liquor store is kind of the main player in the plaza, and they, as I mentioned, 4 to 8 p.m. Bagels and coffee are not peak time at 4 to 8 p.m., so it does work out for the uses that are in the plaza to work out well. And I think what we've heard from the neighborhood over years, not just with this application now, is, and I think you're seeing it, if they're investing in the property, they're cleaning up the back of the store. I know, and there's people in the audience here that remember when B&D Carpet was there, and this, I hope, and I think this owner has done a lot better job, respecting the neighbors that are literally right behind them. Which is always a challenge when you're in these businesses right up next to the neighborhood. But, so we would continue to encourage, improving the site to those ends, restriping, handicap. But in terms of site turnover, if they can manage the parking, because do you still own the?
So the Abramo buildings,
Abramo
yes,
building?
yeah.
So the Abramo building is not a use that needs a lot of parking. So if they can use that use in the peak hour of the morning hours, when you do have that quick in and out traffic.
Space
That'd be
behind the
good.
building as well, too. So we do have enough ample parking for employees, for either.
So with that, I don't, like, one question we had, I don't think, how wide is the area in the front of the space? Like-
So it's about 18 feet wide. It's
Like between the parking lot and the?
Oh, I'm sorry. Between the parking lot and the,
Yeah, there's no room for outdoor seating, right?
I can always find room for outdoor seating.
Yeah, well, the one thing.
I mean, there's enough
Could
of a
be.
walkway where you'd still be able to fit a small, deuce or, two-top table.
Yeah, I mean, what we wanted to make sure in this special permit is if you were gonna do any outdoor seating, and one, it would be, you need to keep the travel way clear, so you need at least a 4-foot open area that it didn't have seating, but we always want to promote outdoor seating where we can, especially in the town center, even if it's just like they have in front of True North, just those like two tops.
yeah.
But, and I just wanted to have it included in the special permit if you were thinking about it.
Yeah,
with,
of course.
Of course, those restrictions that you need to make sure people can still get around.
Are there bollards already there, or we would have to worry about bollards if they put people there?
The sidewalk is elevated there, isn't it?
Is it?
No?
There's a berm. There's not much. We may have to address that if we do outdoor seating. If you can see, there's the brick pillars. So it's the flex appeal space is what we're talking about.
Okay.
So if that.
Maybe some big
Become an option.
planters that would serve to protect anyone
Yeah,
sitting
I
there?
mean, we'd love to do something, but keep it aesthetically
Yeah.
pleasing.
Yeah, it's a challenge and a balance. I just wanted to highlight it, so if we'd have, this many indoor seats, and, because as you know, special permit, it limits your seats. And, 4, up, tops 4, but if you can't even, if it's not gonna work with the parameters, then maybe there's 0, but just wanted to accommodate for it in the conversation. And then the normal stuff, litter control plans and everything else, that when you have these type of convenience uses, I'm sure you know from the other convenience use you have in the plaza that, just as a more high lead generator of litter than some other uses. So to make sure it's not interfering with the neighborhood. Otherwise, that's all we have. It's pretty small use. Parking management during peak times is just something that we just want to make sure does happen. We do not want people to be parking in the neighborhoods on neighborhood streets. So that's it.
Can we, I mean, just to bring up at this point, I know it's a small location, but I know the overlay, you guys aware of the overlay and all of the
Yep.
criteria that goes along with it, brick banding on the front walkways and the lighting and all that stuff? At some point, would you be willing to, being the owners of that site, sit down with us and try to figure out, because the goal is to have the antique lighting throughout the whole center, and that's part of the overlay, as well as the brick banding and things like that, so.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, we're always looking to improve the look of the building as well, right? So, if, especially if we're occupying 2 of the 4 spaces. You know, we're obviously more
Right.
than willing to work with the town.
Right.
We had to take some trees out of there that were there for a long time. They were eaten away at and rotted, and so, you know, just to clean it up and give some nice exposure to the building. But along those lines, there's no, you know, we would be open to talking about putting some nice lighting along that stretch.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, in other words, even if we sat down and just did a plan, and then maybe one year you do the
Right.
brick banding, next year you do the trees, brick banding, the lighting, all that stuff, so we can bring that
Yeah, of
look
course, yeah.
right
It's only
through the
helping
center of
us
town.
too, you know, it's
Yeah, I mean,
boosting the
it's-
look of the building, of course.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Why don't we just ask staff to arrange a meeting? Joe and you and anyone else who wants to attend, to sort of just look at the site as a whole and talk about ways to improve.
Sure.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yeah, look at a 5-year plan. you know,
Yeah.
something.
There's a lot of in and out of traffic. What's, your average customer's probably in there 2 minutes.
For the existing store, or you're talking?
In what you're gonna be doing.
Right, oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of there's a trade-off. I mean, I'm.
Because that grocery store sells a lot of lottery tickets.
Town grocery
No,
does a
really,
lot.
yeah.
I know. And, you know, that's kind of, again, it kind of goes back to the timing. Our hours of operation, we're looking to do 6 to 3. So from that 6 to 3 stretch, this end of the building is quiet. Town grocery is definitely getting their customers, getting the paper, getting tickets, et cetera. Like you said, they're in and out. So as far as it goes with the parking lot, it's not really tying up and causing any congestion. But if you, I don't know if, are you getting at the point of how long it's, I don't know, question is.
Well, I don't know what a traffic hazard or what I'm thinking about, but if you take a space that's only that big, there's always already a business in there. Because when I need a paper or anything else, I just pop in, I come down the hill from Great Pines and
Yeah.
across the street, and then come back out. And this business is going to attract people in the morning. And as you know, Cambridge Street's like, you know, Great Road in Bedford and stuff. I mean, it's just a commuter street, and they're all going by pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so, I wonder whether cars are gonna get stuck backing up while people are trying to go out and take a left turn. Cars,
Yeah.
a lot of them, you know, they're gonna wanna pick up a bagel and a cup of coffee so they
Get
can,
back on.
yeah.
And I'm in the same.
We'll see how it works.
I'm on the same page. I'm up in the same neighborhood, so when I'm coming down, I see it too. And it's, you know, again, the issue isn't just this plaza. I mean, if you go down that whole stretch, a left turn out of any of those lots
Yeah, you're right.
is tough.
Yeah.
So, you know, I hope that wouldn't impede us of, you know, getting a special permit for this.
Mm-hmm.
Again, those are all kind of bigger issues, which we're more than willing to work with everybody to
Sure, well,
resolve.
part of it will be see how your business goes.
Right.
Because if people are having trouble getting in and out,
Right.
they're gonna keep going down to Dunkin'
Of course.
Donuts.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And again, that's kind of why, you know, this concept we feel will benefit us as, you know, as well as keep everything to a minimum. Otherwise, I wouldn't even be here, you know, to throw it out there if we're not gonna do
Okay,
anything.
no, I'm just looking at this from a planning standpoint.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Those are the questions we ask.
Thank you, Paul. Jack?
I'm wondering, it's public hearing, is there anyone in the audience, any neighbors here?
We'll get to them. We will. We'll do
Okay.
that.
I'd like to wait until after I hear from them.
Okay.
I'd like to wait too till I hear from the neighbors.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess this is the planning staff. With this being under 3A, do we have any control of suggesting things like exterior lighting to the signage that's currently there? Or is that not applicable in this case?
Well, as we've talked about before, direct signage control is not under the design review, but we have made suggestions, knowing that they're gonna need a new sign. It's not Flex Appeal Bagels. So when you're thinking about the new sign and the new lighting of the sign and illumination, I think it's certainly something to bring up.
Well, I mean, so are they doing things that invokes the 3A subcommittee?
If they do any exterior changes or anything that requires a building permit for an exterior change, not just the sign permit. It would trigger 3A.
So is that going to happen in this case with the current plan? Okay, thank you.
Not
That's
as,
why I was- that's
not
why I
as
was
far as
saying
we're
maybe
aware.
They seem willing to do that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Right, but it
So-
doesn't seem like, I mean, you
So
certainly can.
I guess the point here, if you're going to put up the new sign, just to start out with this, with Plaza, that the sign, if you look at gooseneck lighting and being externally lit versus the internal lits, and then you can kind of look at the other tenants and things like that over time.
Flex Appeal Bagels, if you ask.
What's that?
They may be willing to change it to Flex Appeal Bagels if you ask.
Yeah, if we can cut a corner, of course. Well, you know what it is? I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of it. I mean, we're literally trying to open a bagel shop.
Yeah.
Right? So the existing signboard is there. We're going to update the lights inside to LED like we did with Old Town. You start adding goosenecks and changing that sign, then I got to do with them all. And we're back to square one. Well, then, you know.
Well, so,
maybe
yeah, I
amend
think
it.
that's our idea, is that
You know.
if you're going to upgrade the lighting, don't upgrade the lighting, right?
Right.
Because the idea would be that you change the lighting to a gooseneck eventually anyway.
All right, so, yeah. okay.
We could have, what Member Pemba mentioned is,
That
you know,
meeting.
the two of you meet as kind of over the next little while to
Come up with a
Move
plan.
it.
I hate to
direction.
see them change that lighting now and say, well, we're not going to do that now because of what you just spent, $5,000 on the sign. So now that one's another 20, 30 years down the road, which is unfortunate, so I'm just trying to get ahead of it there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the only change is just for now is a panel, right? So just the design and the panel that would fit in the existing box. And again, like bigger conversation if we start to talk about that stuff. For our purposes, to get open, we just assume see if we can just replace the existing, and then we can always we're here to stay, right? We're not going anywhere. So again, we're always willing to work with you guys, with the rest of the town. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ernie? Okay. Well, I'm going to, in just a moment, invite neighbors to come and ask questions, but in general, we're excited to see this area of town have some new, more exciting businesses. We love local businesses, and I think that's something that everyone's looking for. So I'm in favor. I do think that setting up that meeting and talking about the site and maybe coming up with a 5-year plan would make sense. If we do put outdoor seating in the decision, let's make sure there's some sort of protection built in for people who are sitting there. And it doesn't have to be an ugly bollard. It can be something pretty like a pot that's going to protect people. So if there is anyone in the audience that wants to speak on this matter, please come forward to the microphone. And when you come, please give us your name and address, and then whatever your concerns may be.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Richard O'Neill. I do not live in Burlington, but I do own the premises at 3 Kinney Avenue. Right there, beside
Okay.
that White House.
Okay.
One block over. It's the beginning of the residential district.
So you own the home, or you own the
I own the
building?
home.
Pardon me?
I own the home.
Oh, the home, okay.
Is that mic on?
I'm in good standing.
The mic doesn't sound like it's
The
on.
mic doesn't sound like it's on.
Oh,
Josh, would you help him with that?
It looks like it is.
it's on?
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes, it
okay,
is on.
maybe just a little
You
closer.
have to get real close and intimate
It's
with
one of
it.
those where I should eat the microphone, right? I don't like to come to these meetings where someone tells me that they've lived in this town all of their lives, because it makes me have to go back in time. My parents moved to this community in 1952 and brought me with them from the city of Lynn. I lived in Burlington in that home from 1952 to 1967 when I married. I bought the house for my mother in 1994, and I have owned that premise since 1994. I, too, have, over the years, seen from the very beginnings, from little shacky kinds of structures to other more well-kept and well-developed things that have been more conducive to put on that site. Where that town grocery sits now, when I was here as a kid, it was a town foundry, Marvin Brothers Foundry, if any of you can predate me. That was the foundry. And it went all the way up halfway. So I'm really happy to see more of what is there now than what was there when I was a kid growing up. But I also know, so you got to remember, just because you live here doesn't mean you're the good guy. Because I look at things like this and I say, okay, so how tight is this space? I mean, it's nice to say I'm going to come in and put a bagel shop in, but it's, how does that impact the rest of what's going on in that shopping center? You see one of the biggest headaches in the world for you folks staring you in the kisser, which is the entrance off of Cambridge Street, not Boston Road, the entrance off of Cambridge Street. It's directly onto Cambridge Street. Now, I came through that intersection 3 times today. At 5 o'clock, at 4:30, I left Winchester, and to get to Tewksbury, where I live, it took me over an hour and a half. Coming up over through Burlington, through Winchester, to Woburn Center, up through Wynn Street, up, and here I am. You get 100,000 cars on that road every day. What do you expect? How do you get in and how do you get out? Now, I actually took the time to sit last week after I got my notice and this week in that parking lot looking at what was taking place. Somebody handed me a piece of literature today that said that there would be 12 customers seated. And then I had something that I think the board sent out that said it would be 20. So are we looking for 20 or are we looking for 12?
What's the number?
And who spoke to the press and gave them all the information?
So, not to interrupt you, nobody spoke to the press. I believe that they pulled that off of the cover letter that went to the town, if I'm not mistaken. I do know the article you're talking about. As far as it goes with seats, what we're looking to do is maximize the number of seats, like
Of
any
course,
business
why not?
would.
Right, absolutely.
There's not 100,000 cars a day on the stretch, it's 40,000. And by adding the shop is not going to increase that by any means.
Really?
I also have the restaurant in Billerica, so when I leave when I leave Old Town to get to Newtown, I'm in the same boat. At 4:30, it's taking me 25 minutes. I don't know what
You must be a better driver than me.
I don't know what you want me to do about
So-
that.
So let me ask you a question. When you have your vehicles, your commercial vehicles, come to that site for deliveries, how do they get in there?
There'll be a small box truck which is going to be supplying.
No, they weren't small box trucks.
What are you talking about?
Okay, sir, can
Pepsi trucks?
I interrupt for just a minute? I understand your concerns about Cambridge Street, and we all share them. But for the purposes of this meeting, we're really discussing the bagel bar. So your questions about how they're going to be
Bagel bar, too,
delivering
because
to
bagel
Bagel
trucks,
Bar,
Madam Chair.
right.
Please
How
talk through the
they're going to be
chairs.
delivering to Bagel Bar is a relevant question. But if there's other vehicles that are delivering to other businesses on that site, we can discuss that kind of offline, or if there's been some big problem, we'd like to hear about it. But I think I think, let's hear his answer. I think you said there's going to be one small box truck?
Yeah, if you want to talk about what we're planning for, it'd be a small box truck. Baldor is the distributor. The deliveries would be right through the front door, just as.
How many times a day?
Time of day.
I mean, I haven't even gotten that far yet because I have to get a special permit first. But early morning is when the deliveries would be coming, so it'd be. Again,
What are your hours of operation?
so
It's
our
6
the
to
hours
3.
of operation is 6 to 3 is what we're looking
So
for.
it'd be before
So it'd
6?
be
Fine.
first
Yeah. Okay.
in the front.
Does that answer your question?
Well, a piece of it, but.
Okay,
But
go ahead.
I still have grave doubt about a small box truck showing up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It just really doesn't happen. And it didn't happen at all in terms of the 2 visits that I made to this site these past 2 weeks. And they just confirmed what it is that takes place in these commercial enterprises.
So did you observe large trucks? Is that what you're saying? Large delivery trucks in the front?
And these, well, there's no back to the store, and there are no sides to this store, which I want to talk about as well. So, I mean, the fact is that you have these vehicles that have only that roughly 50 feet coming off of Cambridge Street to get into that property or to get out of that property. There is no other frontage that they have that they've accessed over along Cambridge Street. Rather, there is about roughly the distance where that curb cut is in about 50 feet on Pontos.
Okay, so are the trucks unloading in this parking
yes,
lot, or are they
yes.
unloading on Pontos?
They're unloading on Pontos and they're unloading inside that development.
Okay, so,
And on Kenny.
If I can interrupt, I mean, like I
Wait,
said,
wait.
you know, I'm sorry.
so you've observed trucks unloading on Kinney and on Pontos, not on this property? Can you confirm that happens?
What I'm asking is if this is a concern, it hasn't been brought to my attention.
Ma'am, you're welcome to speak, but you'll have to come to the microphone because no one can hear you. Okay.
And if that's an issue, we're willing to fix it. And the problem is, we're not here for that. And if we want to have a separate
Right, but you
discussion-
do own the site, so
Right, but-
am I
yeah,
correct in
that's-
understanding that
We
they
were
should
going
not be
to tonight,
unloading
but you
trucks
thought-
on the residential streets,
Pretty
correct?
quickly,
They should not be.
Yes, okay.
Whatever you
So,
need.
what we hear that concern, and trucks should not be unloading anything on the residential streets. So
Right.
you need to make sure that your deliveries are occurring on your site,
Of course.
not on the residential streets. So that'll be in our decision. Thank you, sir. Are there other concerns that you have?
Entrance, exiting, you've hit those. Those are probably the number one.
Okay,
The number one. However, to the rear of this property,
yes.
all of the zoning work that I've done, when there were commercial facilities, the fire department, the first response people want safety zones. They want fire zones. They want to know that they can access all four sides of this property. To the rear of that site, that whole site, there is a strip of about 15 feet that could pass as a fire safety, no parking, no nothing area. And a small strip to this end, which is the north side, where it expands to about 20 feet, yep, as you come down there, that,
That's what, okay.
yeah, well, that doesn't look like that today.
What-
What you have are two dumpsters, 9-yard dumpsters, on both sides of that property, sitting right smack in that area.
Okay, we can require that the dumpsters be screened with fencing.
No, I don't want them screened, I want them out of there. How do you get a fire safety vehicle in there when they need to get in there as a matter of fire safety? Who's got the key, who's got the flatbed truck, how do you move it?
Are you saying that the placement of the dumpsters is blocking that drive?
Yes, that's what
Oh.
I'm saying, and that's why it's doing that. You've got two on both sides.
It's not in this location?
That's an old photo. That's
Where
from,
is,
that was
you tell me, where are your dumpsters located?
exactly where he's saying.
Okay, they can't
Is there
block.
Well, fine, yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry? Is there another place that they
Well,
would?
put
they
them
would do?
there.
they would just, they would go right where, I mean, it is where they, I mean,
So can they
Are
go
they-
where they are in this picture?
Do they have a permit?
Are they-
the
they're temporary.
picture here is that's an old compact dumpster that B&D used because they had carpets they were
Okay.
throwing in there and.
Okay.
Can you
Now
put,
we have dumpsters on both ends of the building. The liquor store has its own cardboard and trash dumpster.
Mm-hmm.
And then
What?
the
Oh,
dental
sorry.
office and the town grocer share a trash receptacle, a dumpster down this end.
can they be, can
if-
you
and if that-
place
I'm
it in like it is in this picture?
Absolutely. And-
Okay.
And one thing that I know is coming up, because we spoke outside too, is the issue of the dumpster. And we have no problem fencing it in,
Okay.
whatever we have to do.
Great, we'll put that in the decision that
Yeah,
the
to make-
dumpsters all have to be screened and they can't block that drive.
You need a permit.
They don't have any approval for dumpsters in the back of the site.
Oh,
There's an area that, what you see here.
yes?
So if there are going to be dumpsters in the back of the site, you need to come back to us
Okay.
to amend the plan.
Okay.
So that's outside of what we're doing tonight and are not permitted to be there unless, I mean, are they temporary because you're doing construction on the site?
No, it's
Okay.
to replace
So,
the receptacle.
Any permanent dumpsters would need to come
Okay.
to this board.
I
to
didn't
be
realize
approved
they
for
didn't have
relocation.
permission for the dumpsters.
And I was under the impression.
And a permit by the fire
Okay.
department.
Okay, so you'll have to file for, what is exactly he's filing? Is it,
We need a minor engineering
Engineering
change
change,
and a permit
okay.
with the fire department.
okay.
So-
And then when you come before us for that, we're going to require they're screened and we'll discuss exactly where they'll be.
Well, all dumpsters in Burlington should be screened.
Yes.
I mean, the ones
Yeah.
right here should be screened. But, yeah, so just to that they're not allowed to, they shouldn't be there now.
Okay. All
They're
right.
not on this plan.
Thank you, sir.
So, one of the comments that I made early on was that I tend to be concerned with spillover. And that's exactly what this is.
With the unloading on the streets and all of that,
In other
yes.
words, exactly. All we're gonna have is a bagel shop. Look, I've made a living off permitting things like bagel shops and donut shops and, I can't, I,
Mercedes dealerships.
Mercedes dealerships. My point simply is that, it's, okay, if it's a bagel shop, what can go wrong? What can go wrong? What do we need to do? I mean, clearly, when you look at the parking, I walked them, I counted them, there's 32. And it's 32 to service that entire shopping center. Does it work? Well, I find out tonight from staff that it's right there at the tipping point. So, what would cause it to become congested? Well, what I'm telling you is that I think you know that already. It's Cambridge Road. I mean, you've got that headache of people coming in and getting out when they want to get in and get out. And they're gonna do it. From 6 to 8, 6 to 9 in the morning, people who want to hit that bagel shop are going to be pushing against the traffic both ways. There's no room for a third lane. Right? No room for a third lane. So what do you do with that?
Unfortunately, we don't have control over Cambridge Street, so I share your frustration about Cambridge Street. Unfortunately, we don't have
All right, so
power to
basically
fix
the
that.
neighbors, when we talk about the parking and the neighborhood, they've lived it, I've lived it, my brother Mike has lived it, my brother Kevin has lived it. You know, it's, excuse me, sir, you can't park there. Do you see there's a no parking sign? Well, I'm just going in to get my
So-
water ticket.
Do you find patrons are parking on those two streets as well? Okay.
Absolutely.
Is it marked with no parking?
Yes.
It is? Okay.
And I don't want to disrespect the police. I really don't, but I don't think they're really interested in racing around to get somebody a $4 ticket or something. And after a while, people know that it means nothing. There's a sign that says no parking.
Because they don't come fast enough. Yeah,
So,
they're
and
only-
peak periods for us are the peak shopping periods, the Easters, the Christmas season, the whatever, when people are looking to go to their regular shop and they come at once. Woof, it fills it all up. It's the entire street, both streets. So when I talk about spillover, that's exactly what I mean. And it shouldn't just be, look, I've lived here all my life and I'm a good guy, and I'm sure he's a good guy, and I want to do a good job, but there ought to be a prove-it-to-me test. You know, prove it to me that that in fact is going to occur. How do you mitigate? I mean, I couldn't sleep nights trying to figure out how to deal with Route 3A down by the proposed
Mercedes.
car dealership. You know, but we wound up taking it and treating its problems, going out in the community and talking to the people that lived in the community. And what were their expectations? What did they need to have? And this board, I will tell you, I've been through I've been through a lot of these boards, and you guys are tops. I mean, you do it right. I'm expecting that you would do it right here. You know, my frustrations are unique because I am in the fight, I am in the process, and I have lived it.
Right.
So,
No.
you know, this isn't where I'm trying to scare you or say to these people, no, you can't do it because this might happen. I'm telling you, it's happening.
Yes, I understand. Would love to hear ideas from other people as to how we can stop. I mean, it's incumbent upon the applicant to make sure there are no trucks delivering anything anywhere off their property. It is harder when it comes to patrons because they aren't necessarily in control of that either.
Last
But
thing,
it's-
Madam Chairperson, if I might.
Yes.
You mentioned meetings with staff. And,
Yes.
I regret to tell you that I've retired, so I have a lot of time on my hands these days.
You would be welcome to attend.
I would love to attend.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we can get this gentleman's information so that we can inform him of
You have
meetings.
his contact info.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Sir?
I'm Mike Oney, I live at 3 Kinney Avenue. I'm not going to talk as long as Rick did. But if you could pull up the Kinney Ave meeting, Cambridge Street, the photo. At the end of the road, it comes at you square. And the problem that the residents have with the people that are parking on Kinney Avenue is when you take that turn, and you have cars lined on the left and cars lined on the right, it doesn't leave two-way traffic. So if you're coming off Cambridge Street, you stop on 3A trying to get off the road, very dangerous. Since Mass Glass is gone, it's been a lot better because the building has been vacant. When Al Wild was the selectman, on his board, the town voted and petitioned the state to make no parking from 3A to Murray Avenue on both sides of the road because of the parking. Today, the town grows... Yeah, they're posted and they just replaced them. The business that's coming in is going to invite, as Member Raymond said, more people that are going to be in there for 2 minutes less. As Mike mentioned, it's a new technology. We all use a cell phone. We're going to pre-order it. It's going to be ready. We're going to come in. My concern, and this is something I hope the board considers with this type of business, people may not come into that parking lot because they cannot get out. If you further go down Kinney Avenue to Murray, what happens is the people come in on Kinney, park on Kinney, and then take a right on Murray Ave,
Yep.
and then funnel behind the buildings to get out at the traffic light or at Shaw's. So by having another business that's going to be quick in and out, we all know that people are going to find a shortcut, and unfortunately, Mike, you cannot deal with that. I welcome that he's going to deal with the trucks in the other part, but it is what it is, and this business is going to be an in and out, and I don't know how the town can control the parking. Briefly talking to Selectman Morandi, I'm going to come before the board on Monday and talk to them about maybe the town having a code enforcement department, increasing fines, because I think right now...
We would love that.
Right, because Burlington Police will not come down for this, and by the time they do, they're gone. It is a good business that you're wanting to do. It's just the chemistry. You know, the dumpster, they addressed it, but mostly for me, it's the parking, the Oakhurst milk trucks, for the town grocery, which Mike is going to address.
So the town grocery is receiving deliveries on the side streets as well?
The delivery trucks don't use the parking lot. 7:30. They use...
Pontos first, and then they'll come inside to the...
Right. And the tractor
So
trailer...
that is incumbent upon you, Michael. That's incumbent upon you to make sure that you don't accept deliveries
Yeah, of
from...
course. I mean, I'm just confused. You're saying they come from Pontos to Kinney?
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying they come from Kinney to Murray.
Part of the reason that, part of the problem is that there are no front door delivery doorways that you would normally come through without disturbing your clientele. So
You know, the problem is, as far as goes with town grocer, they're well aware that their delivery truck, and again, if this is a concern, then I'll address it.
Mine
with
is
the owners
mostly
as
the
well.
parking on
It's-
the street.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason their trucks should be doing that. There's no reason they should be pulling up on the side and doing a delivery. You know,
I mean,
that's.
something you can
100%.
I know you
Oh,
are.
100%,
Just by
yeah.
looking at it.
And then again, with the parking, I mean, I can't agree with you more. It doesn't help anybody when they're parking on the side of the street. The last thing you want to do is aggravate the neighbors. It's a neighborhood.
Right, and
know,
you
it's-
can't do
it's a
anything
neighborhood
because it's
store.
town road.
Right, and
You know?
if increasing fines for cars parking on the side and maybe having a car there for a little bit just to set the tone, then by all means, I'm all for it. If it's a matter of putting signs in the storefronts, letting people know, please be sure not to park on the side streets, use our parking lot, whatever we can do on our end. Again, I mean, open to suggestions to make sure that it's smooth for everybody. This whole piece of it aside, as is, you know what I mean? So again, if this opens up discussions for the issues that are going on right now, then we'll address it, and I'll.
And one other quick one that I have is that
I do think that makes sense.
if
Okay.
approved, or whatever goes in there and the trash becomes more frequent, if you could reach out to your trash guy.
Yep.
And ask them to come in maybe after 8 or 9 o'clock.
Yeah, 100%. And I hear in the background too that they're at 5 o'clock.
5:30.
Yeah, and there's no reason for that. Yeah.
Literally,
So,
what, 20 feet from your bedroom?
We can, when they come in for the dumpster permit, we can address all of that, and there can be signage on the fences that say that they can't come between certain hours. I think the dumpster hole thing we're going to address. I think when it comes to the parking, it's very difficult for us to know what the impact may be. We can address the trucks, but what we might want to do is, in our decision, put in a review, maybe 60 days after opening, so that we have the applicant come into the office and we reach out to neighbors and find out if it's working and what problems might be occurring, so that we can then see what's happening. And because we don't really know how it's going to work. It's hard to say. It is, off hours as compared to the liquor stores.
What if
So-
it didn't work out? How would you then, like,
Right.
he's invested in this.
Staff, how do we do this?
Be it down, question.
Right.
Get down. How would we address it if it didn't work out, is what Barbara just said.
Well, I mean, the public, it's a lot easier to try to figure out the delivery trucks to the tenants. I mean, one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that those folks which we have control over, such as employees, are
Yes,
parking
in the back.
and in areas like the Bromwell pool
Right.
site. I mean, you can control that, so therefore, the more parking that's available within the parking lot, the less likely someone's gonna be parking on any of the roadways. So,
Right.
I mean, the first line of defense is certainly to put a direct enforcement control management structure into that which we can control.
Right.
And then there's the, how do you kind of engineer people's behavior to try to do things better, whether it's signage or you have the no parking signage already. I mean, Mass Glass being kind of totally vacant, it's nice that it's vacant because you don't have the activity, but it's also totally vacant, so people are like, oh, I'll just park over there.
Yeah.
And then it kind of creeps into parking in the road.
Right.
So when you kind of start defining, how can we better define spaces to make it easier, more easily navigable, and people are aware of where we need to be parking? So I think it's
Honestly,
kind of a
all you have
layered
to do
approach.
is, if you tow somebody, you tow a couple of people, and word will spread, and they won't park there anymore.
Right, and then the enforcement piece. So, it's a layered approach where I think we should monitor it. We put in place those things which we can control, and then look at kind of the other pieces, which, how can we change behavior a little, or encourage behavior, and then how do you enforce?
So we're going to put in, employees have to park in the back or at a Bromo.
That's
correct?
already in there.
Already in there,
Yeah.
okay.
But for the other items, as I said, you kind of watch it and try to figure it out, and figure out what's causing it. If you have a delivery truck coming at 10 a.m. blocking 3 spaces,
That's causing.
obviously it's going to be
yeah.
a problem. So, I think those type of things, which you and your tenants can work on a plan to monitor. And you have a multi-tenant plaza with us, you have adequate parking for what you have as far as zoning compliance, and you have a good balance of uses for different hours. So, but you need to maintain that kind of mix of early morning, late afternoon, evening, and, find the right balance for the parking lot to work as successfully as it can. So, there's no magic solution that's good for everything, but I think, as I mentioned before, that this is a commercial area that literally is like touching distance to a residential neighborhood, and these residential neighbors have been very vocal, and in the town center very vocal, and these transition areas are the most
Very
challenging
difficult.
areas we have in town, and how do we get make that relationship work? And it's through a lot of this. Try to let it. So
Thank you. Please come forward.
Hi, my name's Kathy Adams. I live on Pontos Ave, so I think I'm the only one here from Pontos. I'd first of all like to thank you for the improvements you have made.
I'm sorry, could you speak up? I didn't hear you.
Sorry, I said I'd like to thank them for the improvements they have made over the years. I've been here about 10 years. My concerns echo Mike, especially with the parking. Pontos Ave is a mess for a lot of times from these businesses. People blocking the street, like Mike said, on both sides. My concern on Pontos is we have little kids ride bikes. There's trucks sticking out of the alley to deliver. There's trucks delivering in the street, blocking. So it's very congested. And so I'm not taking this lightly. I really like bagels. I love supporting small businesses. I come from a family business background, so I appreciate that. But I'd like to see little better management with the parking, the traffic. Sorry, I'm really nervous.
No, please.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
In particular,
When she's done.
maybe
First,
you
yeah.
could put a sign, like if you can show me the Pontos Ave side, that'd be great.
This is it.
That's Pontos
That's it,
Ave?
That's
yep.
it.
Okay, so that entrance there, when I come home from work, I come from 62, and, obviously Cambridge Street nightmare. Taking a left, a lot of times people will just block the intersection. So there's many times where I'm almost going to rear-end on Cambridge Street because I have clear way into Pontos, but someone darts out. And blocks Pontos Ave, so I can't go anywhere. So I'm sticking out onto Cambridge Street. So if maybe you did like a sign there that said, don't block intersection, something like that, I think it would be really helpful.
Do not block sign makes sense.
Yeah.
Can you-
And then my last issue is the litter, because I think I would really.
Sorry,
like
the
to see
what?
that- The
Litter.
litter.
Oh, the litter. Oh.
I understand you can't control your patrons, people stink nowadays, they just, toss things out the window. But if you could try to maybe do a little better job, like just see like where your back alley is and that whole area. I see a lot of litter there. I pick it up myself a lot of
we have a
times.
requirement to do a daily litter control inspection plan.
Okay.
Whereas I don't think that exists now. on site.
Okay.
So just
That's good. We can add that. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be great. That's mostly, my concern. But I appreciate that you're trying to fill that space. Like you said, it's been empty for a long time, so.
Before you go, Member Espaillo has a question.
I have a question. Is there a particular time of day you guys are seeing people park on Pontos and the other street, or is it all the time? Is it,
All the time. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I work during the day, but I've seen it on weekends.
Is it because the parking lot is full?
Yeah, a lot of
Or
times
is it-
because the parking lot is full, and like Mike said, people think, oh, I'm going in and out. I want to make this as easy as possible. I think is it Paul, said too, like, people don't want to deal with coming back out. So they're like, oh, I'll just pull up to the side here. I see it a lot when I come home at like 5, 6, people are running into Old Town, so they'll just park on the side there by Pontos and forget it. Like, you can't get by. Just can't get by.
Can I ask you a question? So did you say that people go down in Kenny and Pontos and take a right and go down to the light out of Skelton?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because otherwise you can't get out.
Probably the fastest way out.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Okay, I would like to, we can take a drive down there and look at the signage and see if it's adequate as well.
Is also connected at the bottom at Pontos and then Kinney by Taylor Avenue. So vehicles that I was watching were coming down Pontos and coming around.
That's what I said, yeah. I know that area. I sometimes walk up Skelton and down it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Oh, hi.
Hi, I'm Joe Murray, Board of Selectmen. I didn't plan on speaking at all tonight. I'm here for another item.
You need to lift that up, you're
I
too
heard a
tall.
lot.
You're too
I heard a
tall.
lot. I heard a lot tonight about parking and trash and all that kind of stuff. Kristen, you did a great job explaining to everybody what's going to happen. I think that the bagel shop is good for the town. I think it's going to be good for the town. I think it's going to be not a go-to place, but we're hoping it is. My biggest concern was the parking. I talked to Mike earlier about the parking, and yes, I did say something in the back for him to come to the Board of Selectmen meeting, talk on citizens' time, and we will definitely look into the issue about parking. I will talk to the chief, I'll talk to our town administrator, and try to find out exactly what's going on. I can work with Kristen on that. If we need to put up signs, I don't know what the fines are. I'm hearing $2, $4. I mean, are there, I don't know what they are.
I don't know what they are either, but
I've
let's
heard
make them more.
But if they're $2, they're going up. All right? Well, that's my opinion. That's not the board's opinion. That's just mine. So I'm just here to discuss the fact that I did talk to Mike earlier about this.
Well, I appreciate
It's definitely
that.
a concern for everybody involved. You heard a lot, but I don't think that what you've heard tonight should change what you've got to do, hopefully vote for this to go in. That's my opinion, and I'm here for another reason.
No, it's great to know that the Board of Selectmen can help us to resolve this.
We can do on the Board of Selectmen for any resident town or anybody. That's what we're there for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anyone, oh, please come forward. Hi.
My name is Karen Hansen. Oh, almost ate the mic. I live at 2 Kinney Ave.
Okay.
So I live literally
Right
right
behind.
behind
Okay.
this location. Mike has actually been a really good tenant, and as far as when I need stuff, he gets it accomplished. My issue though, really, is if you're now putting food in that dumpster, right? You're putting food in that dumpster. Is it going to attract rats and mice? And because it's literally from here, that's my property, from that dumpster. So that's my concern. If you're going to put food in the dumpster, what is it going to attract? Right? Because, I mean, think about it. If we attract more furry little animals, we have an issue with coyotes, right? And they're coming down the street, and they're getting more and more brazen. So if you are attracting little animals, and I have pets, and we have a lot of little kids in our neighborhood, and the trucks, they literally sometimes will pull up and block my driveway, so we can't get out. The parking on that street is so out of control. And we've complained for years, and there's been sign after sign after sign. No one pays attention, and my driveway gets blocked. And people do come down that road, and they take a right down to Murray because they don't want to pull into that parking lot because they can't get out. So these are things we really have to take into consideration as abutters to this. I mean, I love bagels. I was really excited until someone said, yeah, you're putting food in that dumpster. And I was like, oh, crap.
How frequently are the dumpsters empty? Do we know that?
And that's up to you. I mean, we'll do whatever
No?
he has to do. I mean, most likely, depending on if we're doing a shared dumpster, it'll be,
Yes.
2-3 times a week. The restaurant up the street, we have it emptied Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
And that's 144 seats. But more than willing to do it, get it removed 3 times a week if that's what it takes
Okay.
to appease everybody.
And how many seats? Was it 12 or was it
12.
20?
12.
Seats.
12.
It's 12?
12. I do think most people are going to be taking everything off-site, but there will be some food, I'm sure, in the dumpster. So I think emptying it Monday, Wednesday, Friday makes sense. We
So
can
is
put
there
that
going to
into
be,
the decision.
is it just like bagels and cream cheese? You're going to have sandwiches and all those like You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course, yeah. We did mock up a menu for the Board of Health and for the town, so I know it's posted online on the town's website. So, yeah, I mean, bagel sandwiches,
So are we gonna put like food, like cold cuts and, do you know what I'm saying? Stuff that doesn't sell, and cream cheese and coffee grinds. Is all of that going in the dumpster?
Well, I mean, it would still be a restaurant and the things that come along with the
It would be.
fest.
Currently, how often do you have the dumpsters emptied?
So that's what I was saying. Right now, I believe it's only, well, they'll know because it's loud. It's once or twice a week. Once a
Okay.
week, 5:30
So
a.m. But that's
you're going to
for-
come in for the dumpster permit.
Right,
At
so-
that time, we can dictate that it would be emptied more frequently, and we can dictate the hours as
Not
well.
at 5, between 7 and
Yes,
7.
we
Yeah,
can
we'll make sure
dictate the
that's-
hours.
yeah, 'cause that shouldn't be the
And
case.
you can make sure it stays closed, too.
Yeah, and again, whatever if it's a matter of fencing it in, locking it.
It will be.
making
Well,
sure
we'll address all of that when you come
Yeah,
back for the
of course.
dumpster permit. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I think that's everyone? Okay, all right.
Board?
I think there were some board members that were waiting to speak
Sure.
after. So, Mike?
I'm glad I waited till I heard the concerns of the residents, and I thank each and every one of you for coming in. I think that's what makes government work and makes Burlington great, is that we be people that care, and that this will make the process so much better that we've heard your concerns. All that said, when I heard about this project, I was very excited. I think this is the type of business Burlington needs. We have a dearth of family-owned, smaller type, affordable restaurants, and I was very excited to see this going in. I think it's an excellent compliment to Old Town Liquors. I think the crowding I see in that parking lot, because I go to Old Town Liquors sometimes, and
Never seen you.
it's crowded at nights because everyone's going in and out to get whatever they get there. But this is a good complement to that business. I think you have some definite issues with the site, and I think those have to definitely be worked out because we want happy neighbors, of course, and happy residents at all times. So the dumpsters definitely need, and I know we're going to take care of it. I know you've heard all of it, but I don't want to blame the bagels for the traffic on Cambridge Street. I don't want to blame the bagels for bad residents. I think we need better enforcement, and I think this is a great project, and I'm fully in support of it, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Jack, you also said you wanted to speak later.
Yeah, I guess my first question, staff, this type of business requires a permit. The business that's in there doesn't. What type of businesses could go in there now without a permit, without us writing conditions?
Similar retail.
Any other retail? So okay, let's back. So special permits are food, any type of food, any type of lab, any type of other pet store, pet store pet grooming would need a special permit.
Massage parlor?
Massage therapy, wellness.
So what wouldn't need a permit would be
General retail.
smoke shop,
Any-
nail salon,
Any personal service, retail. If it was actually a grocery store, it would need like
of
a
food.
I think the one here, Convenience Now in the town center is special permit. I'm not sure if the one that's here now is.
In general, though, it would be.
I guess where I'm
any
going
retail.
here is
For the
what,
most options would be by right, food and a limited amount of personal service would be by special permit.
I guess where I'm going here is this type of a business that he's asking for allows us to put some conditions and enforceable regulations. He could get another tenant generating the same amount of traffic, but wouldn't give us an opportunity to put conditions and regulations in there. And I'm not quite sure,
Absolutely,
the
yes.
trade-off there. So I think that the neighbors need to understand, okay, what poison do you want to pick? As far as the dumpster hours, that's a problem everywhere. These dumpster people start at 2 or 3 in the morning because they just don't want to fight the traffic, the same problem, but you have some control over that.
Well, Well, we're going to control that when they come back for the dumpster permit.
Well, I happen to live near a shopping center, and no matter how much is said, I know they bounce those things at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, and in the summertime, when they take a big empty metal thing and bounce it on the ground, it sounds like, 500 drums. It'll wake you up in the middle of the night or early in the morning. And if I lived as close as some of those people do, I would not be happy. One of the questions came up that, we could have some follow-up in 6 months, and the question was, well, if it doesn't work, what do you do? So my thought, I think it was Mike said, well, the guys put a big investment in there, unless, of course, the bagel company you're dealing with is providing the internal equipment, or are you buying it all?
We'd be buying everything.
They're not
Leasing it
baking,
from
so
them?
there's not that much
No, we'd
equipment.
be buying all the
Okay.
equipment.
No. But
Is there a
Jack,
there's
no bakings, there's not that much equipment. It's
toaster oven.
toaster ovens. So
I
I
understand.
think, theoretically,
Display
if it
cabinets,
didn't work,
storage cabinets, I don't know what his investment is and
Right.
whether he leases it from the bagel supply, I don't know. As far as food in the dumpsters, for coffee grounds and food products, you could put that in something internal and send it off to a composting pact. I know grocery stores, their fruit and vegetables that have spoiled, they don't put them in the dumpsters, they sell it. You may be able to do the same thing. I'm glad the selectmen may look at doing some type of enforcement, because I was thinking if you could go out there and put a little coupon in the, like a parking ticket in there, say, come in and get a free bagel, and you give them a lecture instead. Because you'd only put them in the people who parked illegally. I'm just looking for ways to solve the problem. I think they're solvable, but it's going to require a lot of attention on your part. And when you first open it, you're not that busy, but it's when you get busy, which you hope you will be, it's going to be a little more work to police it. And I'm just looking for some type of a way to be sure that that gets done.
Right, right. And just to address your concerns, again, we kind of go back to what you mentioned. It's okay, neighbors pick their poison, so we could turn around. We were trying to rent the space for over a year. The people that were coming to us were nail salons, hair salons. I think there's enough in Burlington, to be honest, not to discount.
And their hours not compatible with what, I see what you're doing.
Right, but it's also, I don't know, again, having the store in town and getting feedback from members of the town and even, some selectmen, people in town, they want to see stuff happening, so it's a catch-22. So here we are trying to do something, and it's tough. We'll make sure, again, the whole concept goes back to making sure it's going to work operationally on our end from a time perspective. So that's why we're doing the early morning instead of trying to
Right.
attract
No,
the
we
lunch dinner
understand
crowd.
that. I think-
Non-competing peak hours, I think
right,
it's a
so-
good concept. And by looking at that concept, it tells me you already recognize the problem, the tightness of your parking lot and the trips at different times of day. So you're trying to spread that out or put it at different times. And I appreciate it, and I think it's a smart business approach. But I think the problem is a little bigger than that, and it's going to require something creative in working with the town and.
The only other thing that everybody kind of has to keep in mind is there was an existing retail space there. Not that it was super busy, but
I think we might be getting a little too far into this. I think we've already discussed, we have a long list of problems that we heard from the neighbors that we're going to address, and they're going to be in our decision, and then you're going to come back for the permit for the dumpsters, and we're going to regulate that. I'm very happy that Mr. Morandi is here, and he's going to help us with enforcement, and we're going to have to take a look at the signs, and we're going to have to impose bigger fines. I do think it makes sense for us to put something in the decision that we're going to come back and revisit this in 60 or 90 days with the understanding that you're proceeding at your own risk, that if this doesn't work and it's spilling over into the neighborhood and it's causing problems and consternation, you may not be able to continue operating your business. Hopefully that doesn't happen, because I think we can put enough controls in place so that doesn't happen. But you understand that moving in.
Of course.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Just a few comments, if I could. Number one, thank you for taking the whole plaza into consideration when you're doing it and getting a business in, as Jack said, that is off-peak time of the other businesses. You said you also own the parcel of land that Abramo Pool is on? Now, and I noticed, looking at Google Earth on here and the streets and whatever, there's got to be 8 parking spaces on the side of his building?
Correct.
And I don't think he's really that busy, especially at the time you're talking about in the morning.
And yeah, that's what Kristen was talking about too. We'd be able to utilize
Yeah,
those spaces.
could you use those
Yes,
to
yeah.
have, employees,
Employee
not just employees, but maybe the customers that you see every day, you can park right over there instead of, please don't park in the street, you can park across the street.
And the large delivery trucks.
That's
They
true,
have
the moving-
two-wheelers, they can bring the stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
It's true.
If they're parking in the street, they're just going another 14 feet.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I don't know if it would work for your type of business, but what we've asked some businesses to do, that delivery. I don't know if that works with early morning bagels, though, but.
Well, it's definitely on the radar, especially with the
Okay.
delivery services where you're not tying up your own vehicle and.
Right, the Ubers or the Lyfts or whatever.
Bring them right out, so, yeah.
All right, so you've already been there. Thank you.
No, that's all right.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right,
May I?
yes.
She says, "Oh, boy." No. You're asking me to make it quick? No.
Barbara, watch
I
the
just
film.
want to say that there's already a problem down there. I heard from one of the neighbors, and they have problems with parking and so forth. My question is, do you think that any of this mitigation that we're trying to put in place would mitigate any of that and even possibly lessen the problem we already have? Because if the selectmen say they're willing to work with them and so forth. The other question, quick, this is the end. There's a swimming pool place next door, right? Could you encourage parking there? Because people aren't coming to the swimming pool place most of the time in the hours that you're encouraging people, and it's going to be an in and out business. And, if it said parking for the bagel place, that might allow people to come in and take some of the pressure out. How did I do?
Very good. Thank you.
Very
All
good.
right.
Great idea, though.
Good idea, good
That's
idea,
great.
Paul.
I am ready for a motion.
They
I know
very
that
se-
Kristen
they very
has been
seldom
taking notes,
encourage me.
And we're going to get all of these conditions in, and you're going to apply for a permit for your dumpsters. Anyone ready to make a motion?
Are they going to amend this for the dumpsters, or is that going to be a?
They're going
No, that's
to
separate.
apply
Application.
separately.
That we don't have a site plan in front of us.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we
The
just
last
have the
one was-
special permit,
Right.
so they would need
So they're
do
going to
that.
come in separately for the dumpsters.
Yeah.
1980 was the last one.
Okay.
Yeah, Frank Baxter signed that one.
Anyone?
Okay, motion to close the public hearing on this matter.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request I'm in the wrong one, excuse me. Approve the request of the Bagel Bar LLC for a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.6.9, fast order food establishments to allow for a food establishment at 286 Cambridge Street, subject to the terms and conditions contained in Exhibit A as amended.
Heavily amended.
As
Yes.
heavily amended.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Thank you. We wish you the best of luck. Where are you getting your bagels?
It's a secret.
All right.
Get a good,
Plenty
I'll
of
bring them to the dumpster meeting.
get a good sesame seed bagel, and I'll be
All
there.
right. And
Good
thank
luck.
you to all the neighbors who came. We appreciate your participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is item B, public hearing, application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.6.9, fast order food establishments of the zoning bylaws, 75 Middlesex Turnpike, the Burlington Mall. Macy's Retail Holdings is the applicant.
She was on the 3.
Thank you for your patience. Please come forward and please state your names for the record.
It could have been midnight. We occasionally do
I
go.
know, this is well past my bedtime.
Macy's opens
It
early.
is, but we're only on item B.
It's almost bagel time right now.
My name's Jennifer Owen, and I am the area director for Macy's Foods Division Northeast and Virginia.
My name is Craig St. Jean. I'm your Macy's store manager here in Burlington.
You know, you're going to sell bagels in this place.
We are going to sell bagels. We are not going to make them, though. So we are applying for a special permit to have, open up a Starbucks inside of Macy's. It would be Macy's owned and operated, fully enclosed within our existing Macy's store in Burlington. I believe you guys have all the plans in front of you. All the food will be delivered. It's pre-made off-site, so just like your typical Starbucks that you have, I believe, 2 in Burlington. So all the same lemon loaf, sausage, egg, and cheese. We won't be preparing any of the food. We'll have 1 Turbo Chef oven. So kind of like you said, a toaster oven. So it's a Turbo Chef. It gets turned off at night. We heat it. We are also applying for a special variance for an internal grease trap, which is what we have in our existing locations. I have 4 other locations here in New England, which we have a Starbucks inside Macy's, and that internal grease trap works just fine because the amounts of fats is very minimal in the Starbucks.
And nothing is going to be opening out directly to the mall. People will enter the Macy's regular entrance and then turn. and-
They'll turn
Okay,
right,
right,
yes.
okay, I understand. And there'll be no seating out in the mall area?
No,
At all.
the seating that's already out there, I'm
Not-
sure people
not
will,
additional
but no
seating,
additional
okay.
seating.
Okay. Before we get to this, I have a question. Why do you have ugly shipping containers in your parking lot that don't belong there, and how quickly can you get rid of them?
Question for Craig.
So the Macy's store in Burlington is one of our growth stores in our company, which is a great thing. It's a thriving location, and the company is making an investment and doing some enhancements to our building aesthetically. So those are holding some of the materials. For example, we're putting down new carpeting in the store.
They've been there for months,
Then the one-
maybe
the ones
longer
for-
than months.
The ones for Macy's were dropped there, I think, like 6 weeks ago.
Where are they exactly located?
These are actually out in the parking area of the mall.
Okay, those are the ones that I mentioned to you that I saw. There's also some way in the back corner.
They're permanent. They've been there forever.
They might
been
be the
there for a
malls, but they're
very
not.
long time.
So the ones closer in are
Those
your
yep,
renovation?
those are temporary, those are for the renovation.
So how long are they going to be there? Because it's a huge parking problem right now at the mall, as you know, and you have shipping containers taking up valuable parking spaces, and they're unsightly.
Yeah, the end date of our renovation is July 27th.
Okay.
That's not that long.
So do they have permits for those shipping containers? You said, I think.
They should be addressed in the building permits that they
Okay.
have.
Do you
I'm not
have a
sure.
building
The
permit that
ones-
permits those? And
The ones way in the back, though, have been there a long time, and we
Yeah.
have a condition in here, whether it's Macy's or Simon even, we can
They have
figure
to
out
be
whose they are, but to have a plan for removal.
Okay, and the ones
Not for
that
the
you
ones-
have, is there some reason they have to be right there in the best, it's in it's some of your prime parking, it's really nice parking spaces, why aren't they further out away so your patrons
I
aren't?
believe our corporate office worked with the contractor that's doing the project, and along with Justin, the mall manager, as far as placement is concerned. There
So
was
did
also there was also a concern about having them too far out. You know, if a screw falls into the parking lot and a customer runs over it, causes flat tire issues. So I don't think they wanted them very far remote either into the parking lot.
Do they have permission to put them there at all?
I honestly don't know.
Let's look into that, because I
It's
think
usually
they're,
a building permit.
I'm not, do you have a building permit allowing you to put them there?
They have a building
I think it would be above me, yeah. probably.
Okay.
Well, if they have a building permit for the work inside, you would have staging areas identified within some of that.
Can we
permit
check
work.
into that?
Yeah, of
And
course.
then
I
I
just don't
also
know the
want to
answer.
see how long they're allowed to keep them there, because that's a long time. If they've already been there for 6 weeks and they're going to be there through the end of July, and that's assuming that everything goes well and you finish your project on time, which hardly ever happens. And it's at a time when the mall is very, very pressed for parking.
Not because of a lot of their
No,
construction.
not their construction, but, you know,
Yeah.
that's prime parking field.
Primarily on Saturdays, that quadrant of our parking lot, even this past Saturday with Father's Day shopping was not full.
I know, because that's the only place I can park when I go there. That's where I go, and that's why I saw the unsightly containers, because I was looking for parking. All right, now we can move
We
on
want
and
you to
talk
continue
about
to
Starbucks, but I would like us to look into that and find out what the constraints are. So, Starbucks. Kristen?
So what you have in front of you, there's a small plan that has a little green box on it.
Mhm.
So Liz put that together just to show you that the Starbucks footprint is entirely within the Macy's site. It's so small, it's an amenity for the users of the site. We don't have any concerns. I would actually like to ask some Macy's, how, you know, when you're rethinking kind of, you just mentioned that this was a growth store and an investment store. When you're looking at this store, I mean, this is 275,000 square feet. I mean, this is a huge store. It might even be our single largest retail store in Burlington. I mean, it's huge. But adding this Starbucks, I just wanted to, you know, since you guys were here, have the opportunity to kind of pick your brain a little bit in terms of, you know, you're adding this Starbucks and just kind of what your other thoughts along with these kind of diversity of uses you're thinking about for the store. So, but I support the Starbucks.
Yeah, the challenge that retailers have is making our spaces, our large spaces, productive in today's day and age, and also to improve the customer shopping experience. So, you know, these businesses that we've layered in as a company have just added to the customer experience. And we, you know, yes, we want to attract footsteps to the mall, but we want to keep them in our store shopping as long as they can and we can. So it's really an attempt to do that and just to improve the shopping experience for the customer. You know, that's what it's kind of all about. It's more about the experience than really any retailer today.
Are there other uses that you've been adding in different parts of the country to stores that you were not thinking today, but thinking maybe at later?
As far as businesses?
To think about what you might be, the future for this Macy's store in Burlington, yeah.
For right now, you know, we try to test concepts first as a company. Herald Square is probably our laboratory for a lot of it to see if it works. But sometimes what works in Herald Square may not work in Burlington, Massachusetts. So that's why we have a local, you know, Macy's initiative, and we have a lot of input as a store team as to what our customer wants and needs. And we seek feedback and received a lot of feedback from our customer. The single greatest request we've had as a store in Burlington is some sort of a food establishment in our store and service. You know, we have customers that still remember the old restaurant when it opened in 1968.
Yes, upstairs.
Something.
They had a secret
Upstairs in the mall, yeah.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Oh, the muffins, yeah.
The Jordan Marsh,
And I can
Blueberry
say
Muffins,
with-
Jordan Marsh, yes.
Working on, in the
I remember things when I wasn't even there.
focusing on bringing in smaller, you know, like, if Burlington, if this concept works well, you know, maybe like a surprise and delight to our guests of having some sort of a concept cart,
Could
you
you
know.
pull the
That
microphone a
could come
little
in-
closer, please?
Oh, sorry. That could come in during holiday or back-to-school shopping, you know, maybe something geared towards children, just little surprises and delights. So that's kind of the gear that the company is going.
And Burlington has really been one of the trendsetters within our district with additions like Lens Crafters in our store, Sunglass Hut in our store. You know, we're one of the few stores that still has an operating fur salon in our store. You know, so all of these experiences, you know, just add to a special store that is Burlington. Yeah.
Thank you. Paul, why don't you
I
start
was
us
just
off?
going to say, Barbara and I meet a lot at the mall. We don't walk together, but it's a wonderful amenity during the wintertime. And to me, this is just a natural, because every once in a while I see the manager. He knows who I am because he comes here and we stop and say hello. And we were told, you know, people said, well, why is Simon spending all this money when supermarkets and so forth and malls like this are going out? And they tell us no. that these larger malls are going to thrive and mop up the smaller malls and so forth. And he said the Burlington Mall is going to be here forever.
Yeah.
I said, okay, but they're accommodating us to the fact that the malls are going to change, that they're going to be more becoming a shopping experience. And an analogy to that is the new health stop that we have in Northwest Park, where you go in there and stay all day. You swim, you eat, and so forth, and it's an exercise, et cetera, experience. And that this, to me, fits in perfectly with that. That, you know, people are walking in the mall, they go with the kids, get something, to eat, get a cup of coffee. I myself am a Dunkin' Donuts guy, but it's right around the corner, and who knows? Thank you.
I hope to see you there.
Jack?
Yeah, thank you. What's at that location now?
Currently in that space sits our Levi's shop for Missy.
That's a big display window now. So,
Okay, yeah. One of the things that bugs me when I go into these department stores is the overwhelming power of smell of perfume. So if you can overpower that with coffee, I'll be happy.
I'll see what I can do.
So
It'll be a wonderful
push
blend.
the, right, push the aroma out to.
Hazelnut and Chanel together.
Yeah, there you
You know, some people are allergic and will actually avoid certain entrances to stores because they don't want someone spraying them with perfume. But other than that, I don't see a problem. I think it's a service that people will use.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Do we have any comments?
Let's see, Board of Selectmen, no comments. Inspector of Bagels, buildings. See comments. You got all these comments anyway, right?
Yeah,
Did you-
they're all pretty boiler, they're very boiler.
They're already, because they look like the
all
engineers is boilerplate, the same one everyone gets.
Do you have any questions about them? No?
Have you received all of the comments from all departments, or? So there's a.
Josh says say
Building
yes.
Inspector, engineering.
Yes.
Fire department, Board of Health.
Yes, we're coming Board of Health on Tuesday.
Okay.
But
It's just for the grease trap
That's for the
variance,
grease
similar
trap.
to the bagel
What's that?
place.
For
The
the
grease
grease-
trap variance, because they're not doing any cooking on site.
Right. So the Board of Health, I mean, I can read those if you want.
They're standard food.
Yeah.
They're standard, right?
Okay.
I don't have any
Any
comments.
Okay. Mike?
Madam Chair, my question was answered when he mentioned that the number one request he had from the customers was a food establishment. So speaking on the topic at hand, all for it, no objections.
Thank
Good luck.
you.
Maybe you could bring back the blueberry muffins at holiday time.
That would be awesome.
No comment, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just a quick question, comment, whatever, am I reading this correctly? Is the Starbucks just inside your entrance to the mall, right?
Yes.
Okay, okay. And is that second floor or first floor?
First floor.
First.
First floor.
Okay. I have no questions. So let's move on. Anyone?
Make a motion to close the public, is the public
Yes.
hearing?
Yep.
Close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0.
I'll also make a motion to approve the request of Macy's Retail Holdings Incorporated for a special permit pursuant to Section 4.2.6.9 fast order food establishments to allow for food establishment at 75 Middlesex Turnpike, Burlington Mall Macy's, subject to the terms and conditions contained in Exhibit B attached.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
We'll look forward to it. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we do not have any minutes to go over, but we do have one discussion item on here, and that is the freestanding sign that has been approved for the shops at Simon's Park.
It's been approved?
Well, it was approved by the Board of Selectmen.
Well, I'll go through that.
So I'm going to let Kristen fill us in. We can discuss.
So there's been chatter about this lately, and what was asked for me to do, so this board doesn't have where it sits right now, this board doesn't have direct jurisdiction over the sign. However, there's been a lot of kind of history as to get here. And what I was asked to do is to explain that a little bit, as well as kind of reaffirm where you where you guys left off. So if I'll be quick, hopefully. I know there's a lot of words in your staff report, but.
Take your time, I got 5 minutes.
You got 5 minutes.
That's it. So, back in February of 2017, the applicant and their attorney applied for an amendment to the zoning bylaw in consideration of the goal to provide safe and attractive signage for both residential and commercial components of the project that embodies town center design integrity and critical commercial sustainability for the property owner. We've crafted a modest zoning bylaw modification. And what that modification was an amendment to allow for the Board of Appeals, in particular instances, permit a freestanding monument directory sign for projects located within the town center overlay that were constructed after, it was really specific to January 1st, 2017, gross floor area exceeding 40,000 square feet, and that where the Board of Appeals find that such a permit is in the public interest. So very soon thereafter, so actually, within this letter, I'm sorry, not even thereafter, within this letter, it says, while this bylaw change may not be necessary if the proposed freestanding signage for retail component can be located within the former Center Street layout, which we feel would be optimal for safety. In the interest of time, we would request this matter be placed on consideration for the May 27 town meeting. So it was kind of two parallel tracks. So there was a submission of a warrant article, which of course would need to come to this board for opening with this board in discussion. And at the same time, there was a parallel track to go through an argument to allow for the selectmen to approve a sign within the right-of-way under their discretion. So what the conversation that happened between February and May, it seemed as if there was some traction for the Board of Selectmen route. But at the same time, we had a public hearing open. So, and it kind of, are we going down both tracks? What's happening? So there was a conversation as to should the Board of Selectmen put this on the warrant, since it's still open with the planning board? And what this board discussed, they didn't take a formal motion, but the discussion was that if the monument article submitted by the Duffing Companies has not been voted on by the planning board, so that hadn't happened yet when they were deciding what to go on the warrant, what should be on the warrant. However, what this board said at that time was, although we haven't voted yet, it should be part of the warrant, because we could vote before town meeting, and further, that whether we withdraw, whether a withdrawal request comes in.
Whose
This-
language are you talking, you said this board,
So
what board?
we had a discussion when it was,
You
should
say
it be
this
on the
board, you
warrant?
mean planning board, or who's talking?
Planning board.
Planning board, okay.
And what all of you really wanted to make sure was known was that it wasn't the planning board that decided to take it off the warrant. Because this board, where you didn't take an action on the specific language, and so therefore, we're not saying it was great or not great, but the pathway to allowing for something like this, this board wanted to reiterate to the selectmen at that time, back in April of 2017, that the preferred route was a town meeting route.
Right.
So I just wanted to bring that up tonight as we talk about, so since then, they went to town meeting as of, no, they didn't go to town meeting. So back in April of 2017, there was an argument put forward by the applicant and the applicant's attorney as to why they could vote for the sign in the right-of-way, stating there's a whole argument for the Center Street layout and that the roadways have no zoning, which I have like
So
20
basically, they were putting
20
forward
other
the
pages
argument.
that that's not the case. Roadways don't have zoning when they're used as roadways. When they're not used as roadways, that's a different story. But the point being that they called out that no sign shall be placed in Article 14 of the general bylaws, the signage, no sign shall be placed on the street without the permission of the selectmen. So they went forward to that process. In August of 2017, the Board of Selectmen unanimously voted in favor of the requested sign with the condition that further discussions will be held with the sign subcommittee with respect to the final lighting design and for the sign. So from my understanding of the conversations that have happened, that there's still discussion with that subcommittee about the sign, and in order for a sign to be placed within the right-of-way that is controlled by the Board of Selectmen, an agreement needs to be signed between the parties, and has not yet been signed as far as I'm concerned. So those that have been involved in the conversation, I remember Pemba being part of the Town Center Committee and some others that have historically been in the Town Center Committee, wanted to ask that the planning board just kind of wanted to bring up what we had done in the past, maybe reaffirm that it was the preference as it was back in April of 17, that the town meeting route was a preferred route in order to get the most feedback on this process as possible. If you want to take kind of a motion to reaffirm that, you can. If not, we've had this discussion tonight. My understanding is that there may be some members of the previous 3A committee that may attend the selectmen's meeting on Monday to bring this item up further. So that's the timeliness of why we're talking about it right now.
Okay, so what, in a nutshell, the planning board is discussing tonight the fact that we recommended and still believe that this should have gone to town meeting for approval. And I think the other thing that we should clarify is that because of the route the developer chose to take by going, instead of going to town meeting, going to the Board of Selectmen, the problem that I see is that this sets a very dangerous precedent, because what they're doing is they're putting a sign for a private business in the public right-of-way. As far as I know, that does not happen anywhere else. Signs in the public right-of-way are usually things like no parking and no U-turn and things like that. So if we start allowing private businesses to put signs in the public roadway, I think we all can see where that could go.
I'll
And
tell you,
it could be very
next-
bad.
If that's allowed, my first step will be, I'm going to ask for my law office sign to be put on the town common.
Good luck on that one, Joe.
You can
It's
do
the-
it.
it's the same
He's
exact
saying
thing.
it's never ending.
So-
Same exact thing, right? I
So
mean, it
Chris, you
really
said
is.
there's a sign committee that had to be reviewed by.
Subcommittee. Was it a subcommittee of the
But was-
Board of Selectmen?
So there's
No, but there was a person on this board that was on the sign committee representing, I think, right?
Oh, so this was, what this language was referring to in the selectmen's decision was the signed subcommittee for this purpose of the selection.
Oh, it's a
So
separate
that's-
subcommittee for
It
this
was a
particular
subcommittee
sign.
of the Board of
That's-
Selectmen.
Yeah,
gotcha.
and that's member Morandi and member
This plaza is
Runyon?
right across-
Runyon, sorry, thank you, who I understand have been discussing the matter.
Right, so this is going to be before the Board of Selectmen on Monday? Is that correct?
I am aware that there may be some discussion at Citizens' Time. I don't know if it's formally on the
Okay.
agenda.
So if we were to take a position and have a vote tonight, just simply reaffirming our position from May of 2017, that we think this is something that should go to town meeting for approval, would we then convey that in a letter to the Board of Selectmen that they would receive prior to Monday?
Yes.
We can do that, yes.
Okay, that would be my suggestion. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
Can we get one space in the monument says this sign was not approved by the planning board?
Engraved in stone at the very top.
We could also wait,
In bright illuminated.
we-
But it says something about the 3A committee, or the town center, so is the town center committee, which is us, going to weigh in on that?
Well, I just
the Town Center
suggested that
Design
we
Committee,
weigh in
which
on
is
it.
you, yes. at this point.
Okay.
You didn't hear, were you not paying attention?
Joe and I were talking about our
Councilor
law.
What I
company.
suggested is
Joe and
that
I
we
want to put our law
vote.
company signs on the mall,
What
on
I
the common.
suggested is that we take a vote to reaffirm our position from 2017, which is that this should go to town meeting for approval, and that then we have that written up in a letter by staff to be sent to the Board of Selectmen prior to Monday.
Yeah, let's do that.
Second,
Yeah, let's do
the
that.
motion.
Can we wait until we have the approved?
Or you could, I mean, you could also, if it is just a citizens' time matter, you could wait till Monday and see what happens, and if they formally put it on the agenda.
Let's see if it's on
I think we should just take the vote now and instruct staff to write up that letter. And if it doesn't have to be on the agenda for us to just send the letter to them that this is our position. Correct?
Yeah.
All right. I made a motion. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that, but,
Not allowed to.
I think you did.
No, someone else should make the motion.
okay.
Paul made it originally.
No, Paul seconded my motion.
I'll make the motion. Paul, you want to second it? Paul, second? Second?
What was
Okay.
the motion?
All right, it's been moved and
So
seconded.
made, so made.
I made the motion by seconding it.
Right.
What was it?
Would motion to send a letter to the selectmen is reaffirming what we had stated in April of 2017. Do you also want us to put a statement about the precedent?
That we are, yes, we're concerned about the precedent that it sets and that there could be many, many other private businesses that wish to have signs in the public right-of-way.
Sure, we can do that.
I make one.
Can Joe's application be part of that letter?
Okay.
All right,
I'm putting my own.
Motion made and seconded.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair?
it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Precedent.
7-0. Now, let's see, do we have anything else? That's it.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, 7-0. Thank you.